Agenda item number 4, public recognition. Do we have anything dated?
No, sir.
Question.
Yes, sir.
Would the sheriff's department go under public or employees since they're not employees of the city line?
Public.
Okay. Well, I just want to say thank you to the Medina County Sheriff's Department for taking up the Brown Santa thing, basically gathering the donations and the money to help out folks in North Carolina.
I concur. Anybody else? Okay, that ends public recognition. Agenda item number 5, employee recognition. Do we have anything dated?
No, sir, not at this time.
Big thanks to Public Works, man. Those folks were busting their butts getting out that water leak up there in Colonial on Monday night. They got that wrapped up in less than a day.
I agree. That was wonderful.
Pete, congratulations, you and your crew. We appreciate that hard work. Also, on another note, I don't know if you all have noticed, but Berkeley Creek has had a major transformation. And our employees were out there along in conjunction with the county, saw trees and everything. It wasn't exactly a cool spell here these last 2 weeks either. So once again, we really thank them for that. It's been in the works about a year and a half. A little over a year. I walked the creek with Danny in July of 23.
Yeah.
So we found, unfortunately, we have a drought. We were able to get in there and fix it. So it can rain in about another 2 days.
Is it done?
Once again, thanks Pete and your crew.
You said it was done?
I think they have some odds and ends.
Okay, great. Wonderful.
Yeah. All right. Agenda item number 6, consider approval of council minutes, regular and public hearing and budget workshop from September the 17th, 2024.
I have one correction regarding the cannabis department. It said, remove a canopy and wait to execute the second one until end of the budget year. This should have been an or. Remove a canopy or wait until the end of the budget year to execute those funds.
I thought you said and.
I thought you streets much.
That could be. I'll make a motion that we accept the minutes for September 17th with the change that Josh suggested.
Do we have a motion from Debbie to accept the minutes from September 17th with the change that Josh presented?
I'll second
I have a second from Ray. All in favor? Motion carries 5-0. All right, agenda item number 7, presentation from governmental affairs consulting firm EMG on economic development. This is brought to us by our city administrator and Mr. Ernie Gonzalez.
I currently don't see Mr. Gonzalez. Anybody represented here from EMC?
EMG.
G.
Okay. Have we heard from
Let's
him?
see. I heard from him. He said he was going to be here.
Okay.
I do not see him. So.
Well, if we've heard from him, is anyone interested in tabling the item in case he's on his way?
Make a motion, we table the item until later in the meeting.
Okay, we have a motion from Johnson, table until later.
I'll second that.
And we have a second from Debbie. I'm curious to hear what he has to say. Any further discussion? All in favor? Motion carries 5-0. All right, agenda item number 8. Presentation of analysis of our zoning and development regulations. City Administrator and Mr. Brandon Beelan.
Okay, thank you, Mayor and Council. As y'all are aware, you appointed a zoning reform committee. During that time, I recommended we have our zones and our codes looked at by a professional planner. We were able to look in our code department, save some money from the transition from inside in-house code enforcement person to the contractual services. So I took some of that money and I got the services of Mr. Brandon Milan, who is a certified planner, and he has given a cursory review and analysis, a brief analysis and overview of our codes and zoning. So he's here to give a brief overview of what he's discovered so far.
Okay, Brandon, welcome.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Council.
Is that all?
George.
The one.
Yeah.
I think it's on right now. There we go.
There you go.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council, Mr. Jordan, thank you for the introduction. My name's Brandon Milland. I'm a city planner. It's a pleasure to be here tonight, and thank you for having me. So, yeah, I'm a city planner. It's kind of another way to put it is like a planning and zoning director. For people like me, when you work for cities, you're a city's planning and zoning director. And then when you're out in the private sector, you're kind of a rent-a-planner director or third-party planning director. And so, yeah, I've had the chance to work for a bunch of cities, and I was planning and zoning director in Bulverde, and then most recently Leon Valley. And so instead of switching jobs, I decided to go out on my own so I can work for lots of cities at once. So, yeah, what does a city planner do? You know, in a nutshell, our job is to kind of help identify problems you don't know you have. And so in this 12-page document, hope I didn't scare everybody with it, but yeah, it's kind of based on experience, you know, looking at everything that we've dealt with as planners over the years, whether it be new development, whether it be long-range issues. You know, it's my job to come in and take a look at things and then give you all advice on some of the things that I see, you know, based on current trends, and make recommendations to you guys about things you could potentially do with your code. And so, as Mr. Jordan mentioned, this is the first step, kind of going through and me looking at your codes and saying, all right, first of all, here are some things that I think are like really broken, i.e. these are things that maybe don't jive with federal or state law. Let me get that for you.
Oh, no, yeah.
So it's my job to come in and look, number one, look at things that maybe aren't consistent with state laws or federal laws, because, you know, city, local government always needs to make sure that it's concurrent with laws. City of Devine, just like all other local cities in Texas, y'all are given authority to have zoning and other development regulations from the state. And as a general law city, you can only enforce laws that state law specifically says that you can. Home rule cities are a little different. In that case, a home rule city, you're allowed to enforce a law unless state law says you can't. And so it's kind of like strict versus loose interpretation of the Constitution that we all learn in school.
So it's can on home rule and can't. Oh, wait. It's can have on our
Ge-
code.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and they can't on home rule like condo.
Yes, sir. Correct. Yeah, so with home rule, unless the state law says you can't, then you can't.
They got a lot of latitude.
Exactly. And so, you know, with y'all, that's something I'm looking at in the law. There's a few major laws, and I'm not going to go through this whole page. I'd love to, because I love to talk about planning. I could sit up here for an hour, but Mr. Jordan says keep it about 10 to 15 minutes. And so, yeah, there's a few state laws, and I spelled them out in here that are kind of noteworthy laws for y'all to be aware of as council members. Chapter 211 of the Local Government Code and Chapter 212. Those are really the two biggest codes that come into play with city development regulations. Chapter 211 is zoning. All states have that. It's where the state says, all right, city, y'all have the right to enact land use laws. And Chapter 212 has to do with subdivision platting, y'all's ability to require certain improvements with platting. You know, it's the legal word for that's exactions. Y'all have the ability to say, all right, developer, you're putting in this 500 unit subdivision. That's going to have some impact on the community. So here's how you're going to design the roads. Here's how you do the water, sewer, drainage. You're going to put traffic light down there. And so those are really the two big state laws. And so that's what I did. I went through your zoning code and looked at all the codes that you've got on the books to look at, all right, how are they complying with state laws and federal laws? And then also the next step that I did in there is look at it, you know, that's more from like a near term kind of thing, like, hey, I think you ought to fix these things now. And I gave a longer term look at at your codes to kind of give y'all more of a starting point. You know, try not to come in and say, I think you ought to do this, but you know, more recommendations, and that way it'll be a tool for the zoning reform committee now that they've kind of got a diagnostic and they've got a little bit more of a description about why these things are important and, you know, some of the benefits and trade-offs of them. Then hopefully this can be a tool, and I can have the opportunity to talk to them and help them make some informed decisions based on the analysis that I provided. So yeah, I don't want to get into all the details on it because some of this gets into the minutia, but I will just kind of touch the high points. And feel free to interrupt me at any point if you guys have any questions. So the way I broke this down, you know, kind of gave a little bit of a background on y'all's code. Y'all's regulations, development regulations, are generally located in the appendices of your city code. You'll have a lot of chapters in there, business regulations, offenses, nuisances, those types of things. But development regulations that apply when somebody wants to come in and develop a subdivision or a new commercial business, those regulations are mostly in appendices A and B, chapters 18, 46, 50, 62, and 78. And so those are the chapters that I looked at. It's pretty normal for a city to have those regulations kind of dispersed in different chapters. Some cities adopt what they call a UDC. It's a Unified Development Code, and that's where you package it all up together in a real nice framework. That's a great scenario. It's definitely user-friendly for businesses. It's user-friendly for staff. That's the benefit of it. Trade-offs of that is it's a pretty huge endeavor. You can read, or I can give you some examples of where that creates a pretty complex situation in a community. Politically, sometimes it can become really complex. It's a whole big set of regulations, and that's a big thing for a city to consider sometimes. So there's pros and cons to both. Looking at y'all's code, I think you've got a pretty good framework here, and so really, in my experience, it just what really matters is the regulations you've got, not always how pretty and packaged it is. And so your zoning code, I would call it's pretty lean. The regulations are pretty lean, but it's got a real good framework. So I think you've got the pieces there to work with and make this a real efficient process for y'all as the elected officials and for the community to kind of tackle this and make some good informed decisions. UDC is always an option, but I'm always a kind of a minimalist and making sure, hey, my recommendation is to keep the processes simple for the public to understand and try to get the job done with the regulations too. So that's kind of a background. In summary, I think you've got some good chapters there to work with. In terms of Appendix A, that's your zoning. Zoning is the biggest tool that a city has in order to process new development and, I would say, protect your residents. Number one goal of government is to protect people, protect private property, keep people safe. Zoning at its core is kind of a policing mechanism. So in terms of zoning, there's different methods to do zoning. There is, and I'll try not to get all academic on you guys, but zoning is the typical process is where you create districts, right? And then you divide your city up into districts, and you decide what kind of stuff you want to do in those districts. You can have single-family homes here. You can have commercial here. More traditional method is, keep things kind of separate. You don't want to put a battery manufacturing plant right next to a neighborhood, for example. Not really compatible uses, right? So that's kind of the idea. It's use-based and keep things kind of separate. Usually, the single-family districts are the most restrictive. These are our neighborhoods. It's the most sacred place. Let's keep them safe, and let's make sure there's, we're not having a lot of toxic or really impactful uses there to keep the streets safe. So single family districts are usually the most restricted, least things you can do there. Churches, schools, that's about it. And then as you go up in the districts, you get all the way to industrial, right? And that's the most impactful. Sometimes you've got dust and stuff in there. And usually, you in a single family district, you can just have houses. And in an industrial, it's usually reserved just for industrial uses. So that's the traditional method. There's another method that's called the cumulative method, which means any use that you can do in that most restrictive district, you can also do in the least restrictive district, meaning you can't have an industrial use in a single family district, but you can have a single family use in an industrial district. And so that's generally the way y'all's code is kind of structured. There are some exceptions. But y'all's code is generally more cumulative. There's pros and cons to that. The pros are, it provides property owners with flexibility. You can start to get into, what planners like to call mixed use. That's kind of the planning rage. You go to the Pearl or you go into San Antonio. You've got a lawyer's office right next to a townhouse. There's some pros to that. And definitely, it can create a little bit more of a pedestrian type of environment, like your downtown. In a perfect world, downtowns have got people living there. You've got a restaurant and a bar. You've got a coffee shop and maybe a city planner's office or something. And city planner can live upstairs, so that's the benefit. The con of that is, it takes away your ability to regulate certain areas where you need to make sure you get retail. You don't want single-family houses going out on the freeway, right? And you can see that you drive up north to San Antonio, you get up a little north of Von Ormy, you've got the little D.R. Horton cookie-cutter boxes on the highway. Okay, people have places to live, but in 20, 30 years, when all those houses are there, and those houses don't pay the bills in terms of tax revenue the way a Buc-ee's does, your land is gone. There's no going back on it.
Well, we have something similar here, if you were to look at 173 from downtown, going out that way and both ways, okay, as opposed to Highway 90 in Hondo, which nobody lives on,
Yeah, exactly.
right?
Yeah, yes, sir.
Well, can't change that.
You can't change that, or a lot of money to change that. It's going to take a lot of profit to flip that scenario. So you're exactly right. That's the reason why we're here in this room right now, because you're all the leaders right now, and you're looking to the future, and how do we set people up, and how do we set our tax base up for 50 years from now, to make sure it's solid and viable. So yeah, that's one of the downsides of cumulative zoning. Is there a happy median? Yeah, absolutely. So in this case, I've made some recommendations in there. Yeah, definitely. I think, if you go into a general commercial district, which is kind of like a district you have an HEB or something in, is it nice to have a low-density dentist office in there? Absolutely. That stuff fits together. But again, having a McMansion right there, probably not a good idea. So I think there's ways to still provide flexibility for property owners, and provide for some mixture of uses without compromising your economic, the viability of your economic tax base there. So I've made some recommendations in there, and those are just looking at maybe limiting single-family uses in some of these districts. I think that's a good way to go after it, and then have that discussion with the zoning reform committee and kind of take that dialogue a little bit further.
I have another question.
Yes, sir.
Because it does come into play here, for example, single-family residences, some of them have businesses inside their home.
Right.
For example, I know a lady, she now has a brick and mortar store almost downtown, but for several years she was cutting hair and doing all this stuff in a salon inside her house.
Right.
And I know of another one, there's a barber shop up by the golf course. How do you incorporate that kind of thing?
That's a great question. So in zoning codes, there's a typical term for that. It's a home occupation. And usually, you identify those in your code and you set parameters for that. It's, maybe no more than, one or two people at a time. You require people to go through a certificate of occupancy process. So, if they're going to have people there, there's just like, a lot of in-home care, sometimes there'll be foster people in a home. So you can require certificates of occupancy, and that's your way to regulate.
And also maybe business hours?
Yes, sir. You can do that through the certificate of occupancy process, and you can also require, say they have an off-street parking space. If it's a cramped neighborhood, you want to make sure that you've got enough parking spaces. That way, that's not going on out in the street.
Isn't there a way to limit, as far as I realize some people would be grandfathered, but isn't there a way to limit some of that transitional into in-home business to areas that are, bordering commercial areas? So sometimes you get an area that starts developing, and then you might have a block or 2 blocks behind that where, CPA might want to buy one of those houses and set up shop. And I think as long as that's bordering onto a commercial area, that would make sense.
Yes, sir.
Plotting it in the middle of a neighborhood does not make sense.
That's right. That's great question and great observation. One way to do that is, and I've written this into codes, I'm working on a new code for Von Ormy because they don't really have any codes. So it does make sense to write a UDC and write it from scratch there. So there's certain areas where you say, all right, in these single family zoning districts, you can only do single family homes. But in the case where the lot may be on a corner with say a commercial kind of artery, then it's allowed to do it there. and that way you're not bringing that traffic into the neighborhood. So through zoning, you can go through and kind of dictate some of the spaces, you know, you can, as long as you get parameters, you can further narrow it down into certain areas where you only allow those
I
things.
watched areas in Kerrville do that, where, like, for example, on Water Street there is a very common street, and as it went out more towards the residential, gradually the city started allowing transitional businesses, so you see a lot of those homes, you know, now just closer, you know, close to the commercial area.
Right.
Have turned into, you know, real estate offices or, you know, business offices or whatever, and that's, you know, it's still the city requires them to beautify the property and all that.
Right.
It's, you know, and signage is very restricted and so forth, but I think that's a better way to approach that than, you know, allowing it in the middle of a neighborhood.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you 100%. And there's different tools that you can, you know, some ways to do it is to go through rezoning, but that can get a little scary for folks. And other ways is just identify some of those things that you're comfortable with, like a lawyer's office or a CPA's office or something, and say, hey, if it happens to be in a single family district, but you're on the corner with a collector street, it's fine. And then when they come in to ask for that business, the staff is able to issue a certificate of occupancy for it. So yeah, definitely. Great idea.
Back in the old days, so to speak, and I don't know if you learned it from old days, but you know, it was pretty commonplace to have a general store in the corner and have,
Right.
okay, the town not from, you know, visiting, right? Almost every corner has some kind of business and then the rest of it might have houses.
Right.
And so you can walk from the store, you can walk, my mother used to send me there all the time, and
Yeah.
buy whatever she needs. Anyway, it's a little difficult to do that here, but,
And part of that comes in, you know, there's another step to zoning, which is a lot of times a step that comes before, and I know that y'all have a future land use, you'll have a comprehensive master plan in place, and then part of that comprehensive master plan is a future land use plan. And so usually that process is sort of, I always say that's kind of the dog, and zoning is the tail, you know, and the plan wags, you know, zoning isn't really as exciting as it is as a planner for me to do. Zoning is not planning. It's actually implementation of planning. You know, it's saying the city's gotten that comprehensive plan to say, here's what we envision for the city or for these particular areas. And then, you know, it's my job as a planner and the council and everybody else that's involved to create zoning that makes that happen, to your point. Let's create zoning that makes that general store and that environment happen. So that's something else to look at too, as we go along. If maybe we, you know, next step, after presenting y'all tonight, get some preliminary feedback, go to the zoning reform committee, and if that conversation ensues, then maybe we'll come back and take a look at that future land use plan too.
So what was your charter overall for this?
For this assignment right here,
For overall, the work you're doing with us?
the work I'm doing is, step one is to take a look at your codes.
Okay.
Take a look and go through, do kind of, I call it like a planning biopsy. That's step one. You know, before you guys go pay me, you know, I get paid hourly, and step one is do a report on this and deliver you guys the news. And, you know, y'all can look at it and say, hey, we love these things you said, Brandon, or I don't know, maybe we don't necessarily agree on these things. And it's my job just to kind of be an advisor to you guys and help y'all create regulations that achieve the policy that y'all want to achieve. And so my dictate is step one, identification, biopsy, and then step two is to take this, work with the zoning reform committee and be a resource for them as they start to address some of these things. And you know, I would imagine that their charge is understanding what y'all are trying to accomplish as a governing body, because at the end of the day, y'all are the final leaders of the city, and then they'll make some recommendations to y'all. And y'all can say, hey, we like that zoning reform committee, or, you know, that makes sense?
Their charge is to advise us based on community input, but generally, okay, so you will be helping them and then wrap up their final propositions, take to P&Z, and then to us, correct?
Sure.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Sorry, I just want to clarify, it seems like you're front running, that's why I wanted to be sure of this. What's your opinion on Houston zoning?
What zoning?
Exactly.
I think they're putting in zoning. I think, you know, I'll tell you, I always make a joke about that. You know, as a planner, you know, I always tell cities, you know, you can accomplish the city you want as long as you don't give away variances and you don't approve zone changes to accommodate developers. As long as y'all stay tough to your vision, you can always implement zoning and use zoning as a tool to accomplish the city you want. But then I always make a joke, but through politics and other things, somehow every place ends up looking like Houston. And they don't have any zoning. What's up with that? So yeah.
So, I get, what economic model do you try and apply when you're doing this? You free market, let the market decide what works best. So I'm not going to put an HEB in the middle of the neighborhood because you wouldn't get enough traffic. Or is it the dictates of a few people's vision of what should be versus what the market dictates and decide the best use of land?
Well, it always comes back to that future land use plan. You know, that future land use plan is a component of the comprehensive plan. And so zoning is implementing, in a perfect scenario, the community gets together and you got a good city planner that helps facilitate all these different philosophies between, you know, private property rights is the most important, and then, or, you know, a viable economic setting to make sure that, you know, we're putting uses and we're developing the city to where it can fiscally support ourselves, all these different approaches. And hopefully all those things come together into a comprehensive plan that everybody agrees upon and the council adopts. And then it's not so much about, hey, what's our philosophy of zoning? It's more, we're creating the rules to implement that.
You've got a great future in politics.
Oh man, thank you.
The best non-answer I've heard all day.
But that's it. You know, comprehensive plan, in a perfect world, the comprehensive plan is supposed to be a democratic process where everybody comes out and it's not about 5 or 6 people saying, hey, this is what we think. It's about hopefully 2,000. And so there you go. It may not be perfect, but hey.
How do you go about identifying characteristics of business types for this mixed use versus naming specific businesses? Because one of the problems I'm sure you saw is like Ice House.
Yep.
Those don't exist anymore. So how do we make something that lasts another 50 years by maybe a certain decibel level or number of cars or something like that?
Yeah. A good starting place is always the building code. You know, that's, you know, because at the end of the day, a city has to issue a certificate of occupancy, right? And the certificate of occupancy, as much as planners would like to, it's not based off a nice zoning definition that a city planner came up with. It's a definition based on what the building official classifies that use based on the intensity of use, whether or not it needs fire sprinklers, whether or not the fire department is looking at, you know, I mean, at the end of the day, the use that they say is what it is what it's going to be. And so the best starting point, you know, the code that I'm writing for Fallen Army, I'm trying to keep the uses as consistent. That way you're not having a zoning code that conflicts with the fire code and building code. So the best way you can keep all that stuff connected, and a lot of times, not 9 times out of 10, but a lot of times the uses that are allowed in the factory district aren't always going to be compatible with the uses in the business district or the mercantile district. So mercantile stuff like an HEB, those kind of things are usually going to be pretty compatible with assembly uses like an auditorium and things. And then cabinet shops, stuff like that, you know, they work real well with the muffler shops and things. So that's my starting point in terms of organizing and trying to keep things.
But do you have a preference on the type of tax base you'd like to align for, whether heavy business, heavy residential, or something else?
Well, again, this goes back to the future land use planning process. There's a way to look at different uses and calculate what the ad valorem per acre is. And so, you know, a lot of that comes down to, you know, again, I'm not advocating for townhouses, but, you know, I did this study when I was in Leon Valley and in Bulverde, and I think what I came up with, like a single family home in Leon Valley yielded the city like $1,200 or $1,500 in ad valorem per acre, and you go up to a townhouse and it was more like $10,000 per acre. I'm not saying turn the whole earth into townhouses, but that's a good idea because that townhouse takes up a lot less land and it has a lot more improvements in terms of ratio to the land area, you know. And so I did the analysis, and a car dealership brought in about as much ad valorem per acre as a low density single family house. So it's not so much about having like preferences as it is just kind of looking at, all right, what are typical real estate development types that are in demand down here? And then also like a KB home. I'm not trying to rag on KB, but you know, a $200,000 home, or you know, that's not going to bring in as much ad valorem as say, I'm trying trying to, like a little coffee shop or something like that. You know, and so really it kind of comes down to looking at some of the development types that you guys want in your city and looking at, all right, analyze what's the fiscal return on this, what's the cost of services, you know, an apartment complex. That's a perfect example. There's different kinds of multifamily. You know, you can have like a quadplex, you know, that's nicely landscaped, it's minimal parking, you know, and that typically has a higher ad valorem rate than, say, a garden style apartment complex. And it's definitely probably going to have a higher overall return for a city. Not return, but it's not going to draw as much city services. Fire department, EMS, police are not going to be having to come out there and expend as much city services. So it's really like kind of, my approach is looking at land use is sometimes like widgets that a city produces, and how much revenue does it get you and how much does it cost you. So it's I mean, and then you're balancing out the aesthetics of it too. You know, I think a Walmart versus
Have you worked on any other municipalities with similar economic posture and size towers?
I'm working on City of Von Ormy right now, which is not, it's similar in terms of probably the real estate market, but definitely a different city. You know, you guys are got a downtown. I'm working with the city of Blanco right now. I've done UDC work for them, and I'm actually working on a comprehensive plan for the city. So Blanco, I think, is a good similar city in terms of having a historic place and being in the line of development. So, and then I've worked for 6 cities over my career, some small ones, some real big ones, all fast growing. So.
Okay, look forward to you plugging this vote into our committee then. Thank you.
Question, just to expedite things a little bit, will we be able to email you with some ideas, concerns, just sort of?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I know we're just getting started. on
Yeah.
this, you know.
100%. Yeah. No, I'd look forward to that. It's all just a big conversation and dialogue. So yeah.
Bless you.
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
should we be sending this up to the reform committee?
Yeah.
Is it,
Well, yeah.
I guess my concern, I want to underline them and the work they've been putting into this by going directly to him. I'm not saying keep him out of the loop, but we put those folks in power, and I don't want to undermine
It
them.
would be the same as asking a question where we sit today. It would be the same. So, obviously, this ought to be turned over to the reform committee for
It's
sure.
in our hands.
Yeah. Oh, it already has?
It's
Okay,
empty.
so they already have it. But I'm just saying, you know, I've already got a few more questions that I want to ask, you know, and so I just like to send an email, just out of my own concern, for my own interest. Yes, ma'am.
A few things. After reading this, it's interesting that our reform committee has done a lot of this already. Like let's take zoning for an example. They've already talked about what type of things in each residential, multifamily, blah, 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 commercial, what industrial. They went through those, and you had suggested to make less zones, like zoning labels. They've already talked about all. I was very pleased that our committee has already done or talked about these things that you put in there, so I'm happy about that. So that tells me they're on the right track.
Okay.
Number 2, I guess I'm the only one that is surprised that this happened, that you had Randy come to you. I'm not against it. It's kind of cool to see it. But last we all talked about this, there was only 4 council people here at that particular meeting, and 2 of us said, let's put that off until later due to cost, and I don't know if they know, well, that actually wasn't my thought, it was really, you know, do they have a feel for our city, well, those types of things. So I'm kind of shocked that this happened without council even knowing it was gonna happen. And number 3 is, how much did this cost us? Because we didn't even know it was happening.
Well, I don't remember a conversation about it not happening. I do remember.
It was March 4th.
Okay. I do remember at the very beginning, before the reform committee ever started, I recommended to the city council that we have a city planner to come in and work with the zoning reform committee, because while their intentions are
Yes,
good,
you
while their intentions are good and but they're volunteers, and this is not their wheelhouse. So I took the money that was, once again, in our code budget, from the city budget, when we went from in-house to contractual services, this was already in the budget. So when we went from in-house to contractual services, we saved approximately $50,000. Out of that $50,000, I spoke with Mr. Milan, and I gave him a not to exceed amount of $10,000 to look at the codes, look at the zoning, and to be a professional advisor to the zoning reform committee. So we'll the recommendations and ideas that they have, when they are exhibited, you can take them and look at them and make sure that they're legal and that can be done. And then when they go to the planning and zoning with the recommendations, we will have valid recommendations to present to the city council. So honestly, I don't recall at any point that I was told not to acquire the services of a.
Actually, two
Okay,
of us
fine.
were against it. One said, let's spend the money, but we never voted on it. There was not even another discussion about it.
Well, this
That's
was
what
in-
I'm saying. I'm surprised, and I guess maybe I'm the only one that didn't know that it happened, and that council as a whole didn't know it was gonna happen. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm not saying it's a bad thing.
This was in the current approved budget from last year. It's not this year's budget. This was a current approved budget from last year. And when we saved $50,000 from contractual services to in-house, I took a portion of that and reinvested it into our code to ensure that we have valid and up-to-date codes and valid and up-to-date zoning according to the current law. We also, since I've been here, have adopted, the city council did, International Building Codes 2021, which is a whole other thing of codes that our codes and our zoning need to be validated against those as well. So that was based, my decision was based on.
Debbie, I also had the same concerns. Okay, when I saw the agenda, I asked David about it, just like we were now. And when he explained everything to me, and especially since it's in the budget, I felt like he has the full right to do so. Because it's in the budget.
I can sympathize with the frustrations. For me, I saw this, and the explanation makes a lot more sense, and it is absolutely in line with what you explained at that council meeting. I don't necessarily have to love it, but it makes sense to help advise. It seemed like it was front running the committee and undermining their effort. That's the one thing I really want to make sure we don't do, is those folks put a lot of their own time and efforts into this. I don't want them to feel like we're discounting anything they're doing just to go for, big box store that expects their answer to this is how you shall do it.
It should help them.
The reason that they asked Mr. Milan to come in was to assist the zoning reform committee. Once again, these are volunteers. They have a great heart. They want to volunteer their time, but they're not city planners. So the ideas that they come up with might be great to them, and once it's reviewed through the planning and through the legal department, come to find out it can't be done because it's not legal. So my thought process was, why don't we maximize the volunteers' time just on this zoning reform committee by having a professional sit there and listen to them and advise them on the way forward. Not tell them what to do, but to advise them on the recommendations that they have.
Yeah, I see that the same way as we've been sitting here talking about the growth as it comes down Interstate 35. And what we want to do in every regard is make sure that we're ready and that we're set, because these developers will take advantage of weaknesses and then you're stuck with it. So I don't have a problem with professional consulting with the committee. To me, and I don't know the history of that, but I think it's a good solid move.
I just wish council would be, I guess, updated or kept in the loop. I guess that's really my whole thing. It's in the budget, well, that's wonderful. Hallelujah, but we didn't know. That's all I'm saying. If we could just be kept in the loop, hey, I got a city planner, blah, 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 blah. Hey, cool beans. That's all. So we don't have what we've been going through since Friday, going, why, what, who? And then you get phone calls. You can't answer them because we don't know. That's all I'm asking. Just update us.
Also, to add to that, You know, bureaucracy moves slowly. Okay? So if we had to hear and approve on every single action.
I'm not saying every action.
Okay, but I'm just saying, so our job as a council, okay, is to direct policy, and the city manager's job is to enact that policy.
So we can
And so
direct the policy, that's what I'm saying.
There has to be some leeway in there to allow him to do his job. So, yeah. But anyway, all good points, and I respect every single one.
I mean, we paid David a good salary to do what he needs to do for the city. We've been so far behind, we're in the ancient world. I want to move forward, and I think he's doing a great job doing what he's doing right now. I mean, he went out of his way to get a hold of Mr. Mullins. I mean, we even had a committee ourselves, correct? Still do, see? And now, this guy has the degree and the education, and he's been to every town that he works for, and he's given us guidance. So I don't think Dave did a bad job. I mean, I think it was an excellent decision that he made.
Again, I'm not disagreeing, I just, again, my concern is I don't want that committee to be undermined or compromised.
I'm pretty sure they would love his guidance, so, you know?
Well, yeah, because in the end, it needs to be legal, and we need to know the ramifications of what those decisions by that committee are putting forward. And he's the guy to tell us what that is, or tell the committee that's what that is.
Amen.
Appreciate your time, looking forward to a final product.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I can just, I'll run through and just spend 2 more minutes just giving kind of the Cliff's Notes on it for y'all to go back and continue looking at it. So yeah, that was the zoning chapter. There's subdivisions are another big part of the code. And so look forward to giving y'all some guidance on that. You know, land use is one thing, but subdivisions kind of dictate, you know, once it's determined and somebody determines, okay, you can develop a neighborhood, or you can develop a big box, or you can develop a commercial use here. The subdivision code determines infrastructural considerations, site considerations, right-of-way dedications, and so there's lots of things to discuss in there. Made a few notes in there, and again, happy to take any questions from you guys on that. And then there's made some notes and a little bit of background information on large format development. As you're talking about, Counselor, you know, it's times, you know, due to being in the path of growth, you know, the type of development you guys are going to see over the next couple of years is probably going to be of a different scale than what the city's seen the last 150 years. You know, gone are the days of building the 2-story, 25-foot wide shop with a saloon, and, you know, now it's, you know, you've got CVS, Walmart. These are some big boxes, and sometimes that require big areas of parking and large drainage considerations. So there's a lot of things that y'all can do to make sure that you facilitate economic growth, but make sure you're not really compromising the character of the community and trying to get stuff come in that it's the character that you guys want. So there's some tools y'all can adopt there, and we can keep that conversation going with the Zoning Reform Committee as well. There's also some things you can do to incentivize small-scale development. You know, I always advocate for small-scale development for character reasons, for fiscal reasons. So there's things you can do through zoning to incentivize development you want, while also making sure that you're you know, when it comes to square pegs, making sure they fit through the round hole for you guys as well. And then lastly, some recommendations regarding signage. And some things that y'all can potentially do with just a few extra things that communities in San Antonio are looking at in terms of drainage considerations and watershed considerations with large-scale development. So yeah, look forward to working with y'all, the committee, and any questions that y'all have. Thank you for having me tonight.
Thanks, Brandon.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor and Council. Appreciate it.
Man, what do we got to do to get applause?
I make a motion, we move the previously tabled, yeah, that.
Okay, we previously tabled agenda item number 7. Mr. Gonzalez is here now, so let's now return to agenda item number 7. I'll read it again. Presentation from Governmental Affairs Consulting Firm EMG on economic development. Mr. Gonzalez, welcome.
Good evening, Mayor and Mayors and members of the City Council. Please excuse me for not being here on time. We actually just drove in from Floresville, where we're running a regional economic development forum. But I've got Janice Gonzalez with me. She's the owner of EMC Strategy Group, and I'm the president president and CEO for EMC. I just wanted to correct the name. It is EMC on the company. Is this a clicker right here? Okay. Next slide, please.
Still in the 80s.
Okay, so EMC Strategy Group was established in 2015, but Janice and I have been in this type of business for 25 years. It is a family business. It's woman-owned and veteran-led. I served honorably in the United States Marine Corps. The name of the business is actually the 3 letters of our children, our 3 kids. So Ernie, Mitch, and Christiana. Ernie and Mitch actually work for us now. They're lobbyists, state and federal lobbyists. And Christiana, we hope, will be a lawyer, because we want to hire a lawyer in-house instead of outsourcing. We represent and we are registered state and federal lobbyists. We focus on government relations and external affairs. So when it comes to the government relations part, we reach out on behalf of our city councils and our city administrator to any state or federal agencies. We deal with the bureaucracy. And on the external affairs part, we work with our counterparts in the private sector, folks like with Union Pacific or AT&T. They've got lobbyists, and we interact with those and work with them. We do provide services for grant and fund development services. So what that means is we help research the funding opportunities that are available through the state and federal government, and in some cases private foundation. We tie it to the local priorities, and as we identify those funding opportunities, we share that with the city administrator, who will in turn share that with you. And if it's a grant that we've got experience with or know how to navigate around the application process, we will assist the city in applying for that. I want to make very clear that we are not a grant writing service, but we do support the grant writing applications of the city. There's some firms out there that only focus on grants, and there's some firms that only focus on state lobbying, and then federal lobbying. We do all 3. And we also support economic development services. In fact, I know that the mayor and your city administrator attended a economic development forum that our firm ran in the city of Pearsall in Frio County just a few weeks ago. Today we ran another one. It was a huge hit, and brings a lot of awareness to a community when you're trying to connect the dots to federal resources and state resources to support economic development and infrastructure within a community. Next slide. Okay, so I want to talk about our leadership and experience. So I had the opportunity to work in the U.S. Congress, in the U.S. House of Representatives in Washington, D.C. In my role, I was a special projects and grants coordinator. So I worked with all duties as assigned and supported cities, school districts, and counties, and special districts, including universities and colleges, law enforcement agencies, emergency services districts, fire departments, that were trying to get funding from the federal government, and that's what I did in my role. Janice worked for the United States Senate, so she got paid more than I did. And usually when people found out who she worked with, the conversation went from me to her. So in her role, she worked for the chairman of the Finance Services Committee and also for the Foreign Relations Committee. So we both worked in Washington, D.C. We've got experience in leadership in working in lobbying and advocacy on behalf of public and private sector and nonprofit organizations. Government affairs at all levels. We both have had the opportunity to work in the city, county, state, and federal government, including all 3 branches of the government, executive, legislative, and judicial. That really gives us a full understanding of the bureaucracy. You talked about how sometimes government takes a long time to get things done. Well, one of the things that we like to do is we help to break down the barriers on behalf of our clients. And because of the years of experience that we've had in politics and in government, it's easy for us to pick up a phone call and call Tony Gonzalez or Andrew Murr or Peter Flores. We've got a relationship with them and their chiefs of staff and their teams. So we work in a bipartisan fashion too, which I think is also a very strong suit when it comes to lobbyists, because quite honestly, we don't care if a politician has an R or a D in front of them, so long as they're going to deliver on behalf of our clients. That's the big thing. Will they bring home the bacon? Will they be good stewards of the financial resources that are available? And will they support your law enforcement agencies and your fire departments and your infrastructure? Because that is what really is important. That's why government exists. The roads, the infrastructure, the water, the sidewalks, all that good stuff. We work on, as I mentioned, Public-private partnerships is part of economic development. It's another tool. It's a tool where you can bring in private investors inside a community, and in our role as consultants, we work on identifying public-private partners that can come into a community and invest. So if the state government or the federal government can't give it all, for example, the Economic Development Administration has grants, but they only give 50% grants. It's got to be a local match. So if they gave you $2 million, that means the city's got to come up with $1 million. And so where do we get that $1 million? Is it going to be from a private investor that can give $500,000? Maybe the city gets another $500,000. There's your local match. So we work on identifying those type of resources. Again, the grant development services, infrastructure projects. We've had a lot of luck. In one of the last slides that I'll show you, it'll show the success rate of what we've been able to do for our clients in terms of infrastructure, airport hangars, water projects, community buildings, multi-use buildings. Just recently, that's in construction, or that's about to start construction soon, is a community building here in Medina County, in Castroville. It's a multi-use building through a park system. Some of that came through a community project funding request from Congressman Tony Gonzalez, and the other part of it came from a USDA community facilities loan. In the city of Pleasanton, we've got a $12 million project that we're working on there for a new police department and justice center. Half of that came from a congressional earmark, and the other half came from a community facilities loan program. And we are working on that project. But we've also got hangar projects in Pleasanton and Corpus Christi at the airports, along with several other applications that we put in for quality of life through the Texas Parks and Wildlife, and also the Briscoe Foundation. We've had some success when it comes to those grants. And when it comes to public safety, we've had a lot of success with public safety. I'm a former law enforcement guy myself, and I did that in the Marine Corps, so I speak the lingo. And just recently, on Friday, we had a grant announcement in the city of Lytle where Congressman Henry Cuellar announced that we had secured a $150,000 grant for a new law enforcement officer under the Department of Justice Cops Division. We also found out last week that we secured $600,000 in a DOJ cops grant for the city of Pleasanton. They're going to get 5 brand new officers, entry-level officers, but again, supporting public safety. This round of ACOG funding that came through the Criminal Justice Division of the Governor's Office, we secured grants for multiple law enforcement agencies in a 5-county area from Frio, Medina, Atascosa, Bexar, and Wilson counties. So that was stuff that really makes a difference for your constituents. Then transportation. We worked on Texas Department of Transportation grants through their aviation division. We worked on grants through DOT, US DOT, and also the Federal Aviation Administration. When it comes to economic development, we've secured grants through the Economic Development Administration. For the city of Pleasanton, we secured a couple $1 million for a multi-use business center. And we're working on a couple projects in Floresville for their Floresville Economic Development Corporation. We also provide assistance when it comes to strategic planning. I got to tell you, when I first got into the lobbying business, I didn't do anything with strategic planning. But after 25 years in the business, you learn the language and you get to work with other consultants. So we provide assistance when it comes to strategic planning. Won't take full credit for doing it all, but we work together with other folks in the team. Healthcare has become a more of an issue with wellness, with mental wellness. Some of the mass shootings that you all have heard of, sadly, were as a result of people not getting the mental treatment that they need. So when we do our roundabouts in Austin and Washington, D.C., lobbying on behalf of our clients, we talk about the need for expanded healthcare, not only healthcare, but expanded healthcare for veterans to deal with PTSD, and also to deal with those who have mental illness. Next slide. Okay, so our clients, we serve nonprofit, public sector, and private sector agencies. You might recognize some of those on the screen, but we do represent cities in 5 counties within the San Antonio metro region. We also have expanded our operation to include some big Fortune 500 companies. Schneider Electric is a multi-billion-dollar worldwide energy provider or a company, and we provide consulting services to help them do community outreach. We've done work for AT&T, Walmart, and also on the nonprofit side, Catholic Charities and some veterans organizations that are very near and dear to our heart, and me being a veteran, that's real important. And I'm really excited to announce that just recently I was asked to be a part of the United States Navy Blue Angels Foundation. And so I'm a huge, as a Marine, the men's department of the United States Navy, I was really pleased to be asked to be a part of that organization. And I'll be inducted into that foundation in a couple of weeks. Next slide.
Hey, sir, what's your favorite color?
I'll tell you what, all 8. So the cities that we represent, you must be a soldier, aren't you?
Of course.
Okay. Well, I'm an Air Force brat, by the way. So the cities that we represent, these are our current clients. Castroville, Charlotte, Floresville, the Floresville Economic Development Corporation, Lytle, Pearsall, Poteet, and Somerset and Wilson County. So I'm sure most of those you're familiar with, and some of them are within your area. And then next slide. Okay, so some of the projects that we worked on, I like to call this the basic food groups. These are the things that you all as city council members and the mayor, you hear daily from your constituents, all right? What are you doing for infrastructure? What are you doing for, economic development? Public safety always comes up. Quality of life with your parks. Housing and local control is something that we work on very closely with our cities and also city attorneys. As we prepare for the next legislative session, which begins on January the 14th of 2025, of course, Big Brother, your state wants to limit your control. That's what they do. They will expand mandates and expect for you to fund them. So what we do on behalf of our clients, we meet with our state reps, our state senators, key committee chairs and vice chairs of the House and Senate in Austin, and we prepare and we take a legislative agenda that addresses all those things and also fight for local control. In our work with that, we also partner with the Texas Municipal League and the Texas Association of Counties and TASB, so that we make sure that we get support, that we're getting the latest information when it comes to legislative issues, and so that we keep our city administrator and our mayor informed on what's going on in Austin, what's going on in DC, so that we can address those that are impacting your community. So again, these are things that we do almost every day, and we've gotten really good at it after 25 years. That was a groundbreaking ceremony that we had just a few weeks ago with Congressman Tony Gonzalez in Castroville for that multi-use community park that we're talking about, the building. Next slide. So working with our elected partners, the way we are successful, because we are lobbyists, we work with local leaders all the way to the county leaders to state and federal. You'll see that from the mayor to U.S. Senator. We've been very blessed that as we've developed our relationships, that has been leveraging some FaceTime with some key people for our clients. I'll give you an example. Just several weeks ago, we were in Washington, D.C., and we sat down with both Senator Cornyn and Senator Cruz. It was supposed to be a 15-minute meeting with Senator Cruz. It turned out to be 45 minutes. Now, it is election year, so that was in our favor. But we got to sit down with them. Our clients got to sit down with our U.S. senators. We got to sit down with Chip Roy. Chip Roy is my congressman. Tough guy to work with. If you know his politics, he's tough. But we build a relationship with his office, and he'll sit down with our clients and listen to them. We sat down with not only Tony Gonzalez and Henry Cuellar and Monica de la Cruz and several members, Michael Cloud from the Coastal Bend area. So we cherry-picked which members of Congress that we were going to visit with, but we were able to do that on behalf of our clients. So that is very important in our line of work, is navigating around the politics, getting around all the political partisanship, and just work on what's the priorities for the cities. Next slide. So as we work with other partners, we work with the neighboring cities and counties. Sometimes it's good to team up with another community if it's going to benefit your city. And I think, Mayor, you got to see that when we had the Economic Development Forum in Pearsall. We had cities from all over the region, including incumbent state representatives and one that's running for office now. And, we had our congressman there, and we had public and private sector, school district and college and university, utility companies, the railroad company was there. It's important to team up, form collaborative partnerships wherever possible. In every single community that we work with, we always work with our school districts, because as we apply for grants or try to sell the story of the community, we secure letters of support from the superintendent and school board members. Colleges and universities are very important because they provide a lot of support for workforce development. If you want to bring in higher paying jobs, you have to have the workforce there to support the higher paying jobs. And so having those relations with college and universities are very important. Chambers of commerce, same thing. We become members of every chamber of commerce for every city that we represent. In addition to that, we also encourage our city clients to become members of other chambers of commerce. That might sound weird, but we have convinced our other cities to become members of the San Antonio Greater Chamber of Commerce, the San Antonio Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, and Greater SATX and other associations that will benefit our communities. So just picture this. You all become members of a bigger chamber. You get invited to a major event that they've got. Now you're talking to some bankers and some outside developers, and they ask you what you do, and you got your name tag on. It says you're a city council member from Devine, and they're looking to expand and create jobs. So that's why we do it, for economic development purposes. We partner with economic development corporations, the ACOG, TML, Texas Association of Counties, Ports of Plains, and Tex 21. Those are associations that support transportation. Next slide. So as we work with the state government, we do work with the Office of the Governor, and as an example today, we hosted the Deputy Director of the Governor's Office of Economic Development in Florissa. We brought in one of the 5 commissioners for the Texas Transportation Commission, the only South Texan other than Bruce Bugg that's out of San Antonio, but we brought in Alex Mead. We brought in Aaron Demerson, who's the CEO for the Texas Economic Development Corporation. We had Adrian Lopez with Workforce Solutions Alamo. We had the EDA representative there and the USDA representative there. Bring in our contacts to support economic development for our clients. So we work with the state legislature, state commissions, state agencies. We work in the interim session. Right now is the interim session before the session begins. We've held legislative workshops for most of our clients, and we've got several lined up so that we can prepare for the next session. We will be boots on the ground on day one on the session and throughout the session. And I mentioned earlier that we are a family business, so when I'm in Washington, D.C., Janice is covering Austin. When she's in Austin, I'm covering Washington, D.C. My 2 sons, who are both state and federal lobbyists, who have also worked on the Hill, we support each other. So we always have presence in either Austin or Washington, D.C. To make sure that our clients are getting the advocacy that they need. And then we plan our city and county days in both Austin and Washington, D.C. So most of our bigger cities, a population of, I would say, 5,000 on up, they do 2 trips to Washington, D.C. a year. The ones that have a population of less than 5,000, 1 time a year. It's based on budget. But in those trips, we visit with key key federal agencies, and then key members of Congress, including the administration. On Austin days, every one of our clients goes to Austin at least 1 time during the session, and we will have a 2-day session where we do a reception with the governor's office, our state rep, our state senator, and their colleagues, and then we hit the state capitol the next day by plan with a schedule. We break up into teams, and we take the entire city council, and that's really a very hard-working 2 days. Next slide. On the federal side, I just kind of mentioned that we hit every agency that's relevant to the city. So if you got an infrastructure need, we got to visit with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. If you got a public safety need, we're going to visit with the Department of Justice. If you got mitigation needs, we visit with FEMA. So you see, I know the language, I know the agencies to meet with us, help us break through the barrier. And when I see the list of priorities that you all have, we already know which agencies we're going to go see, so that we're not wasting anybody's time. Next slide. Okay, so developing legislative priorities. We have fireside chats with the city council. You all have constituents that you meet with, so you give us the input. We would have a workshop where we discuss what's relevant to the city, what are the funding opportunities, then we narrow down a 1-pager, and it's always on a 1-pager, because if it's anything more than 1 page, it's going to go to the famous File 13. A congressman is not going to look at a 2-pager. I mean, I've worked on the Hill, I know what I'm talking about. So we engage with public and private sector stakeholders within the community. Faith-based organizations are very, very important. Obviously, they got congregations and voters. So we want to always, get their input as we develop an agenda. Engage service organizations like the Lions, the Rotary Club is always a great resource. Staff is very important, not only David, but his department heads, his cabinet, his police chief, and so forth. Then we identify the low-hanging fruit and the quick wins. What's available, what's easy to get, what can we bring back to the communities. I'm very excited that we've only been working for the city of Lytle for 10 months, and we secured over $150,000 for them in grants, in less than 10 months. Last year, we had a big win with Pearsall. They had brought us on, and we were with them for about 9 months, and we secured $700,000 for them in a 7 to 9 months term. So we got lucky. That doesn't always happen. Sometimes it takes a year or two. But we also identify short and long-term goals, and then we look at the capabilities. What does the city have? What is the capability of the city to handle a $10 million grant if we got it? We may have sold it. My job as a lobbyist is to be a salesman. I sell the story. But then if I get you the funds, we better use the funds, because we don't want to be, in a situation where Ernie just got us a $10 million grant. What are we going to do with it now? So we identify a plan. We have you all approve the plan so that, there's no surprises. Next slide. So state legislative priorities, we look at, what's important to the local government. We work on fighting for your local control. We discourage unfunded mandates because that's just more cost to the city. We focus on education, healthcare, public safety, transportation, infrastructure. Those are all things that, even though that as a city council, you might think, well, I'm not dealing with K through 12. But those K through 12 kids, if they're not, given something to do and kept busy, then your police chief is going to be dealing with them. And I will tell you, crime, this, crime has a lot to do with economic development. Development itself in infrastructure and developing your workforce, it's economic development. So, we focus on what's going to help create jobs and make your city more financially sustainable. Next slide. On the federal side, some of them is the same, but, economic development, energy, border security does, believe it or not, it impacts this region. So we look at funding opportunities that support, again, your public safety. We've already discussed healthcare and housing. Next slide. So in the external and public and private sector affairs, energy, rail, telecommunications can sometimes be an issue for our community. And we've had some successes with our relationships and work with AT&T. When it comes to fiber optic cables and also cell phone towers. And then, some of those things are already covered. Nonprofit organization outreach when relevant to a community, like the food bank. We've been able to help some of our cities that have struggled financially and gone through economic hardship. We brought in the food bank and leveraged that relationship to provide meals for constituents. Next slide. So recent successes, I've touched on some of the public safety ones earlier, but you'll see that some of the larger congressional earmarks, $4.3 million for Floresville, almost $3 million again for Floresville. Pleasanton, several $1 million for infrastructure projects. We brought in a major manufacturing company to Atascosa County in Pleasanton. So we brought in Steel Dynamics and United Steel Supply. They created about 150 jobs with a lot more in the works. So we leverage that through our relationship with the Governor's Office of Economic Development. And then there's several other success stories that we've had. I'm not sure if you do have a copy of this. Next slide. And we are near the end here. So accountability and transparency. As lobbyists, what we do is we keep regular contact, regular communication with our city administrators and our city managers. It's almost on a daily basis. And then once a month, we prepare a report on the things that we're doing on behalf of our client so that you all will see that at a city council meeting. And then because we're lobbyists, we have to follow our reports to the Texas Ethics Commission and the United States Congress. So basically that's a disclosure forms. Whenever we do a political contribution, we have to report those. Next slide. So as I wrap up here, one of the things that we like to hone in on is our experience. You know, we've got proven success. Somebody told me a long time ago, the proof is in the pudding. And we've got some good pudding. We've got some good recommendations. You know, we've got good references, mayors, county judges, city managers, city administrators, economic development directors. We've got experience at government at all levels. I mentioned that we worked in city, state, county, and federal government, executive, legislative, and judicial. We are always looking for funding opportunities. We report those funding opportunities so that you all are aware about what's available. And then we decide so you all can make an informed decision on what makes sense for your city and what doesn't. You know, what do you want me to go after? And I will tell you that the mayor of Lytle, Ruben Gonzalez, he told me early on, he said, I don't want you to focus on that. I want you to focus on this. These are our priorities. So he gave us our marching orders from the very beginning, and that's what we've been doing. We want to identify those funding opportunities, program support, and collaborative partnerships that are relevant, that actually address local priorities. And I want to highlight that we are a sole source firm. There are DC-based lobbying firms that only do DC stuff. There's Austin-based firms that only do Austin lobbying. And then there's great firms, like great grant writing firms that only do grant writing. Well, we're a sole source firm. I've got one-stop shop. We won't do every grant out there. You know, there's some things that maybe we're not strong at. And we'll let you know right away. If it's like CDBG is not our cup of tea, I'll refer you to Livingston or GrantWorks. They're good at that. And I'm going to be very honest when it comes to that. And then once we identify, if you all have interest, we will present an agreement to David and for the mayor's review and for city council entertainment. We agree on a monthly service fee, and then we tag on a 5% administrative fee for any funding that we secure on behalf of our client. That's our standard agreement. You saw all the clients that we've got. Very fortunate that all of our clients have renewed us for multiple years. We've been representing the city of Pleasanton for 8 or 9 years. And then all of our clients now are under 3-year contracts. So we built up that trust, the communication, and the results that we've provided. So, questions?
What would your initial contract be?
It's $5,500. It's a flat rate a month. And we've actually worked out, we've been asked about an hourly rate. Your attorney will tell you, you've seen what, those can look like. We avoid the hourly rate because it would be too high. So we put in a flat fee, and that way there's no surprises.
Is your initial contract shorter than the 3 years you mentioned?
We can negotiate that. We, at a minimum, we ask for 2 years because we need to set ourselves up for some success. There's a lot of relationship building that needs to take place in between us applying for funding and securing that funding, and also selling your story. Selling your story is not going to come overnight. And, congressional races are every 2 years. And so we've got to leverage that relationship. And I know that you all have a good relationship with Tony, as we do. But, there's a lot of other moving parts.
Okay.
How do you
Go ahead.
How do you reconcile policy differences between maybe a large metropolitan like San Antonio versus us whenever maybe they're not supposed to push a more destabilizing communist policy at the state level, like defunding police or decriminalizing petty theft under $900? That's obviously not something we would want. How would you reconcile that?
I'm glad you asked that question. So every one of our clients that I mentioned are all red communities. Every single one of them. You saw the list. And so as we identify what our priorities are and what we're going to be doing on behalf of the client, we already know what going into it. Basically, I did my homework coming into this meeting. I know that your state rep's Andrew Murr. I mean, he's a very conservative member of the state legislature. Peter Flores is as conservative, not more conservative. We've got a great relationship with the governor. And Tony's he's got a tough district. He is. And Will Hurd can tell you before that, and the congressman can tell you before that. In fact, probably the neighboring district is a little bit, the Democrat incumbent has a more conservative district than the 23rd. So, but, we're pro law enforcement. We consider ourselves, towing the line when it comes to being able to negotiate with a Democrat or Republican. But all of our clients have similar issues. Now, you bring up another thought that just popped up is that, if you're representing all these clients, how do you distinguish with which clients you're going to give the attention to? Well, there's 3 different congressional districts that we're working with, and they all have a different pot of money. So the 23rd district has its earmarks they can give out. The 28th congressional district and the 15th district, they have their earmarks that they give out. And because we know the system, sometimes it may be the turn for Castroville. Well, they already had their turn last go around. It's going to be somebody else's turn. And so, we work that relationship, we sell that story to the member of Congress, and we make sure that the local priorities are what we're going to be focused on. And that's why it's important for us to have a discussion. So if there's something that you all don't want to focus on, then you let us know what that is. We won't even touch it.
Do you personally or professionally accept any money from the Chinese Communist Party, any of its own companies or subsidiaries?
No, in fact, our contract that we will present to the city even makes that, it's got that statement that we don't.
Hey, we got TikTok in this agenda, right?
That's all. I hate TikTok. I cannot figure it out, so we're good there.
Okay, last question, I promise. How do you reconcile any of the strings that come attached to this free money, like those DOJ costs? Are those the folks that are tracking down 7-year-olds who were at January 6th events, or how do you reconcile those sorts of things that might counteract the ethics of that community?
So the COPS program is a funding mechanism that provides funding for new entry-level officers, and their restriction is that you have to go through the hiring process that's been approved by the city council and the police department policy. So it's a peace officer that graduated from the academy. You all have your standard. You all hire the officers. I think the big picture is they want to make sure that you have adequate law enforcement to keep your community safe. Aside from the politics. Boots on the ground, officer with a badge, rifle vest, and a handgun.
Thank you.
Is that fee that you just said, is that monthly or yearly?
It's monthly.
Monthly, okay.
And I do want to highlight, since you bring up the question about the fee, and Janice always reminds me about this, is that, we have a team. So when you hire EMC, you're getting her, you're getting me, you got 2 other lobbyists, and then a whole team of grant writers and a marketing team. So you get an entire team that's working as an extension of the city administrator and the city council. And you're not getting a 1-person operation, and you don't have to pay for the benefits. And unlike a regular employee, and I like to remind my boys this, we're always on the clock. We're lobbyists. We don't shut off at 5 o'clock. I get calls on a Sunday night. I've gotten calls at 10 o'clock in the evening last night. We respond to our clients.
Very well.
Any questions?
Anything further? I think it's something we'll
Thank you.
clearly discuss and
Absolutely.
see what we can come up with. It's a great initial presentation. We should appreciate it.
I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you all very much. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Can we get a quick recess?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. Everybody good? Okay, at this time, we'll take a short recess.
Yep.
5, 6, 7 minutes. Okay, we are now going into recess. 7:21 my time.
I am an Air Force rep, by the way. Born out
Going to get my. Right, everybody good?
Good.
Okay, everybody, we are now back in session. 7:32 is the time. All right. Where we left off was actually agenda item number 8. We finished that. We're going to go to number 9. Consider and act upon Jess Swain with 6S Engineering briefing on the following. A, closing of part of Lorraine Drive, which was requested by Ray. And then B, LC Martin Waterloo connection, which was requested by me to look into. All right, welcome. Please state your name.
Thank you. My name is Joe Cantu with 6S Engineering. I'm here in place of Jess Wayne, so I get to...
Is the mic on? You're pretty tall. It doesn't matter.
Is it on now? Yep. Is it
Push
on?
to the 1.
It's on 1.
Yes.
That's all, it's good.
Lean down a little bit,
You
okay.
got a pretty good voice anyway.
All right, so my name's Joe Cantu with Success Engineering Inc. I'm a partner with the firm. I'm here in place for Jess Wayne. He had to be out for his son's wedding, so he'll be back next week.
Son's wedding?
Yeah.
Where are his priorities?
So I told him I'd do it for him. I'm just here to present an overview, just a brief overview of the two projects that we met with Mr. Jordan and Public Works staff here. So if you want, I give just a brief overview of Lorraine Street. And so that one, from what we understand, the city is wanting to connect both Lorraine and Karen Street. And so as part of that, we looked at that to provide connectivity. We did meet with Public Works Group, and then we found that there's a shallow sewer manhole. Believe it or not, it's about a 1 foot depth, so it's a very shallow manhole. So as part of making that connection, in order to cut that grade through there, we're going to have to relocate that. So what you see on the scope of services is the engineering services for survey work to redesign, relocate that sewer manhole and make the connection. Proposed pavement improvements for that. And so it's kind of straightforward, but if you have any questions on that, I'll answer any questions I can right now.
So there's just absolutely no other way around that. There's no way to curve a street, there's no way to...
Yeah, unfortunately, it's kind of skewed as it is, and so right now, we've looked at a slight deviation from alignment. It's still going to be kind of offset a little bit, but we're going to have to relocate that.
Is there a way to just, so where the guardrail runs there between the two streets that are parallel, can we cut across there, or does the sewer line go between the two streets?
It's right between the two, it's almost right now. Now, the sewer line itself, we're probably going to have to concrete in case, but the manhole is the main issue, so the manhole is kind of, it's right in the middle of that connection, so.
And there's no way of going around the manhole itself?
Yeah.
Cutting the property.
I don't understand why we can't go around the manhole. Why can't we just, I mean, it wouldn't be a straight through then, like Butch mentioned there, maybe an H connector there.
Well, based on from what we're seeing on the map where the manhole is located, it's a straight direction from Karen Street into Lorraine.
So if you went, based on the picture, I guess it'd be a little to the east.
And I'll have, we don't have an exhibit, I have a,
I assume the picture is north oriented.
yeah.
Okay, so a little bit to the south, or can't go a little bit out of this house.
Where on the picture is the manhole?
I have no idea.
It's over there.
So did you guys, I'm assuming you got copies of this?
Yes, it's right here on the,
Where on that picture is the manhole?
it's right here on the TV.
So about where that dot is, just around that area is where the location of the manhole is. So I think Pete can probably,
So right here?
yeah. The issue, I think what you're saying is if you kind of angle it more this way, is that what you're saying?
Right there with, second down. Right in the center where the line's at.
Second
Right
down,
there.
first one.
The manhole's right in between the two.
Yeah.
Two dots.
So could we go a little bit to the left on Lorraine Drive there?
It's, you're gonna have sight distance issues. You want to have an intersection with sharp angles, because it'll create, some safety issues. After we do that, you're probably gonna have to install some stop signs too, so you want to have some control through that intersection, so.
We're gonna have issues at that point. No matter what.
So that's why we're trying to align more with the property owners, Karen and Lorraine, and then have an intersection with that.
If I remember right,
And this is
Well,
probably,
man,
the last time we talked about this was for all y'all were here, even you. It was close to this number. Of course, it was so many years ago, not as much, obviously, and that's why it never got done. And now we see this number, I'm sorry, got a frog in the throat. It's a little pricey.
What if it's a one-way and just an exit only? There's not,
I mean, there's some other options we can look at. This is all we've done to date, just on our overview discussion.
because it kind of just needs more of an exit than an entrance there.
The alternative we looked at was a through, right, connecting it. So if there's other options we can look at, then we can always look at it again. See exactly.
I'd be happy to look at anything that's less than $195,000 for 100 feet of pavement.
But and you do have some other costs in here, so there's, sewer alignment, manholes.
Right, it's all the stuff underground.
Still all
that's causing
yeah,
problems.
yeah, same thing, exactly. So we're just presenting what we have, so, I mean, if that's outside of budgeting, then we can always revisit that.
Yeah, but the only problem that I see is that everybody that lives in this territory on these streets here, if any emergency happens, they're blocked in, there's no way out. You see, and that's why Ray brought this up to council. And it's happened before. I mean,
Twice.
twice,
Yeah.
the house fires and the trailer house
House and the standoff.
and standoff. You see, and you can't get out.
I wonder how in the world that ever happened.
I have no idea. It amazes me. I mean,
Well, no planning, obviously.
Yeah, so the option that we gave you is just what was proposed, connecting it, so we need to look at something that, I guess we'll have to go back. visit that.
That's that lobbyist guy, maybe he is.
Yeah. So,
Nice grant for that.
oh yeah.
I didn't think you'd be cheap, obviously, but that, I was a little taken aback myself.
yeah, and with our opinion of cost, that's our, like I said, it's our opinion of cost, we have to be a little conservative up front, because we never know what the market values are. Going bidding a project, you may get one contractor, you may get several, be competitive, you never know what those prices are. So, but like I said, outside the budget, we can always revisit this with some other options.
Okay. Any other questions on item A? Does council wish to take any action? No.
I'm sorry?
So,
What did you say?
I said, does council wish to take any action? We're on item A, we can wrap it up. Okay. All right, now to conclude item A, we have no motions at this time. Okay, moving on to item B of agenda item number 9, the LC Martin and Waterloo connection. And we discussed this, I think, a few months back. And the whole idea here is, I was actually given the idea by President Alice, and I thought it was a tremendous idea. We have $1 million water tank up there by LC Martin that's practically brand new. When the refurbishing company was here, they said it didn't need hardly anything, what have you. And if we can get water into that tank, we have water storage capacity to our system, and it's connected to the rest of the system, and also enhance the water pressure and such. At that time, I believe we were talking about tying into the transmission lines by the apartments, but I think you're recommending going all the way back to the mains. Correct. So if you would, please expand upon that.
So right now, in our initial research on it, so one thing that I just wanted to do, let's get initially with that well before it's taken offline, is get a second opinion from the well driller that he's working with out of Georgia West. And that's going to be just based on our research. So he wants to get some information on that to make sure it's not going to be able to come back online or anything like that before it's taken. So that's step one. Next thing was, with limited data, we met with Public Works Department, and so there's a lot of lack of information as far as pressures in the system and what pipes go where, what size of PSI and that stuff. So before we move forward with any of the recommendations on keeping a line or constructing a line, we wanted to propose a water model for the whole city. So, and what that would do is essentially model the entire network so you know what your pressures are in the system, where's everything located. And not only that will be a tool for this exercise, but also for future planning, for development and stuff like that. So, and that's what we want to do, recommend that before moving forward and saying, keep that tank. We don't have enough information right now to say whether or not we can keep that tank in line, or what it would do to the system.
Hey, David. So JR said whenever this last company was doing the water line replacements that they were using our GIS to map out all the water lines. Does the city have any of that on file, or did he keep that personally?
No, we still have that information. Yes.
Okay. All right, I'm looking how to mitigate cost here. We're gonna have to recreate the same.
Yeah, if there's data we have, I mean, with heat injuries, so they're limited on they can share that information, and that would also help us build that model network up. So, and that's more mapping, right? So we still would like to put a model together for the city. I don't believe you guys have a water model right now. So that's
But you'll
key.
be talking volume and pressures and
Pressures and
everything else
everything
also.
else network, yeah, because if you want to add a system somewhere within town, you know what's going to do to the rest of the system if you add that network, or a developer comes in town, wants to do a subdivision, they want to know how much pressure is in the system, can you guys provide that? So we give them that information and they can work. So it's a working tool, right, to have, and that way you guys have that system model and then mapping for your public works group to plan around, so.
Okay,
But that's
with regards to the well, Pete, hasn't that well been evaluated rather extensively? And on that, we've determined that it's just not, that there's too much bacteria, coli, et cetera, in there.
Yes, sir, we've gone through that. I mean, but Jess still want to go through it to make sure that if there's any way possible that we can get that well going. We've gone through other drillers, so I mean, you're welcome to try if you want to. I mean,
I see.
yeah, so I mean, maybe it is possible, but we've gone through 3 different drillers and they all said the same thing.
Okay, it's pretty much that used its
Yes,
its
sir.
life. Okay.
Can that water storage tank that's there, and y'all know, I know nothing about this, can it be moved to a place that can be used and utilized better? I don't know. I don't know if these things are.
Yeah, I'm not sure how it was built or what type of tank. I mean, he would have more information on that. The assemble a tank, you put it back, you're gonna have the cost of that too. So I think there's benefits to probably keeping it in place. We just gotta make sure we model it correctly and there will be,
Well, we know there's transmission.
not taking away from
to
that,
main.
so, yeah.
Well, there's transmission lines that go from the main further
Yes,
further
it's just
east.
getting water to it.
Yeah, right.
Right.
So there's obviously, like you were saying, it's a good idea to know about water capacities of the entire town.
Yeah, I love that idea. I just didn't know if we could.
We'll have to build that tank somehow. Right now it's being fed off the well, so getting a single feed to the tank is gonna be, one thing, but we gotta make sure we do that. Is there benefits to that installing that main? Or like you were saying, can we just do a loop across the field there and kind of connect that, maybe fill up an outline?
Right.
So those are some options we're looking at, but we just felt the best thing would be to, create that water model and have that basis, that way you guys have it. When we're not around, you guys still have that model.
Okay. And we have a lot of that information already.
As far as the model, no, it's-
No?
mapping is very limited. I know there wasn't too many as-bills that we were trying to look for, and so.
Can we just,
Did we just have
just
all
completed
that?
that study?
Something we missed out on the grant for because of the negotiations.
We got told it
No, we
was
got it.
going on.
There's a whole lot more involved than that. So yes, we have some of the information, but we don't have everything that they will need to do a proper study. So the information that we have, we will forward to them to add to it. But yes,
So in your professional opinion, it is worth looking into to enhance our water system?
Yeah, we want to, that's our recommending the model. And as part of the scope of services, it's also, we're attaining fire flow tests, so that way, it helps calibrate the model, right? So we do the fire flow field tests around town, making sure that model is modeled correctly, and so that way you got a good strong basis that they can keep up.
And also, guys, the money that we have that was reserved from the War Stadium project over there can be used for this project.
Yeah.
If I can do that. So, okay, well, we'll have to await further information, it would seem.
Okay.
Do we need to take any action, David, to get this started? Is that something that we would provide to him? You mentioned about checking out the well and everything. Is that something you're doing?
So that's something that we're doing on our own.
Okay.
Getting a second opinion.
Okay.
The scope of work provided is strictly for the water model and all the work involved in getting it, to you guys.
Okay.
Do we need to approve where we go ahead with the water model?
Yes. Get started on it.
Where's the money on that? It's not listed.
This, it was 38 or so thousand. That's hard.
Is that the?
No, the water model is,
What page?
Page 2, right bottom of page 2, basic services.
This one?
Page 3.
Oh, page. Page 6.
Page 3 has the fire blow test.
so the base services is 39,280, total project cost is
46.
46,000.
Basic, or now is the water model going to be the total, the 46?
So the base flow, to do the total project, it'd be the total project costs. We just break it all up, break out all our tasks, so you guys know exactly what we're doing, but we could do it without the fire flow test, but we would highly recommend doing the fire flow test, because that helps us calibrate the models, so.
Okay, I'm going to make the motion that we go ahead and, do we need a contract for this, Tom?
Well, they presented a contract here. I've got problems with the contract.
Okay, I'm going to make the,
I mean, we can work with them.
yeah.
Sure. I think typically we do.
I think I'll make a motion that we go ahead with the project after our city attorney approves the contract. I'm sorry? Yes, and having the city administrator work with the city attorney along with 6S to come up with the right contract, but not to exceed $46,580.
Okay, can you rephrase that, maybe do that? I can't repeat all that.
Okay, I'd like for council to approve and go with a contract approved by the city attorney, city administrator, and 6S for this water model project, not to exceed $46,580,000.
Okay, we have a motion from Debbie to proceed with this project in accordance with all of the necessary contracts, provided not to exceed $46,580.
Is that good?
Yeah, no, I think you guys do see.
What?
I've been the budget.
Well,
It'll come out of water and sewer, right?
It's quite a deficit.
But we have the money for it. Okay, and amend the budget, and we all work out that part.
okay, rephrase on the initial motion, please add, and also amend the budget. Okay? Do we have a second on the motion?
I'll be happy to get behind this once we address our water rates.
Okay? All right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can't keep digging a hole deeper.
All right. Motion fails, we'll have to second.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion. We table this item until we correct our water rates.
Well, there's no reason to table it, you just put it back on the next agenda.
Just bring it back at another
If we ever.
time.
All right, thank you.
All right. Okay. One quick question before we end the item. This, I don't know if I want to find the right way to say it. So this water study and what have you, and I assume we'll be able to use that in many other areas, and not just this one.
Yeah, no, it's entire city, so the water model for
All right, so if this water model is done for our city, it's also going to be able to be used in other areas and other projects and so forth.
We've done it for all other municipalities, and it's a
Right.
planning tool for us to assist you guys in public works department with
Okay.
major projects.
All right.
And before the motion died, I didn't get a chance to ask, because I was waiting for the discussion part. It's like,
Well, you need a second before you.
right, I understand. But my question is, for moving forward, is, you may have said a second ago, but what part of the budget does this come from? And can that be grant funded?
It's water and sewer, and we do have funds, as they were just
Well, it'll
saying.
be from the grants and what have you we received for the old horse storage tank that we decided, rather than building a complete brand new one,
Right.
we decided to refurbish it, so that leaves us with a surplus as far as grant funds.
So That's why I was asking, because I felt like what we needed to do, in addition to all the other parts of promotion, was attach that to that grant, so that it's clear where the money comes from. That's all.
Well, it says, so it's gone out.
Okay, correction, it wasn't a grant, it was a loan.
Yeah,
It was a loan,
But it
yeah.
has to be used for its
Water
purpose.
and sewer.
Yes.
yeah, because I'm not opposed to the project. The project needs to be done. That's no doubt.
Well, that's,
But he just made a motion to table it, correct?
Well, it doesn't have to be.
It doesn't matter.
no, Debbie made the motion
Yes.
to approve. Okay, nobody seconded, so we couldn't further
Yeah.
discuss it. Before we close it, we can entertain another motion if there's something else. It's just
You
that
don't want me to
motion
make the
fails.
motion again?
No.
Okay. Somebody else make one then.
Wow.
Are there any further motions?
No, sir.
Okay, I feel confident we'll bring this back. Okay, once we get a little bit more to present.
All right, we're here to help with whatever we can.
All right, well, we appreciate everything. Thanks so much.
All right, thank you.
All right, that closes that item. Okay, agenda item number 10. Consider and act upon request submitted by Devine Chamber of Commerce for its 63rd Annual Cactus Festival on November 2nd, 2024.
Can I make a motion, we approve A through C? A through D. A through D.
I second the motion.
Not be enough?
Actually, yeah.
There is no discussion, motion carried.
I remember last year.
Hey, good evening, council. Cindy Morales here with Devine Chamber of Commerce and Nancy Saul. So
Okay.
I did want to present y'all hot off the press. Okay, they just handed this to me.
Oh, cool.
It's the 63rd annual Devine Cactus Fall Festival, and we did put City of Devine and Devine Chamber of Commerce as co-hosting. So I wanted to present you with one that y'all can put up at the City Hall, and it's got all the lineup.
Thank you, very
Send that to me
nice.
electronically?
Yes, it's already on our Facebook page, and
Oh, good.
we're
Okay.
sharing it all over
Good,
the
good,
place.
good.
So these are just all the things that the city graciously helps us out with every year. We did have a meeting, David organized a meeting, and I was there, and we met with the fire, PVP, and it's great. Kind of went over everything, checklist of everything. The use of the community center, Nancy had also asked that we have that Thursday through Sunday, because she starts setting up her art contest, and she's got several young people with that, and the city lets us use the electric and water, the indemnification for the alcohol sales. We've got our insurance, and I've already presented that to the city. The city also graciously allows us to get a couple of extra dumpsters. The carnival lasts for one, and then we also have another one that we use for all the trash. We have our cars already contracted for cleanup. We do put locks on those so they don't get utilized by other people. The carnival will come in and run those, that's actually on Halloween, falls on Halloween. I've already contacted, my son-in-law is in charge of the University Grill from here down to Laredo. He's already removed all of those old railroad ties and cleaned up everything for us, so the city can go ahead, and Pete does a great job in his crew putting up the safety barricade. We have we're over at over 100 booths. Market Association, we shared the wealth with them and helped them create. The main thing we're doing this year is just trying to involve all of our wonderful community organizations. Any of our organizations that are nonprofit, there's no cost. Like Columbus, the current events, any of our nonprofits, they are welcome to set up and at no charge. The Chamber and the Market Association does not charge them. Parade's going great. We did work with, I've talked to the gentleman in charge of Salinas, the construction there, all the wonderful cones on J and 2200, we've coordinated with that. The PD will help us move those cones over, but I've also confirmed with them, I will get it in writing that they will not be there on the parade day, and everything will be to the side. And everything's going great, so we're really looking forward to it. Anybody have any questions? Awesome.
I did with regards on the 10D, So it's, obviously the city can't indemnify ourselves, but assistance in procuring an indemnification agreement
Yes.
for alcohol sales on city property. Tom, how does that work with the city?
I'm trying to think, we already have some type of agreement, don't we?
Yes, it's just renewed every year.
Yeah.
And the main thing is we have our insurance binder, and we present that to the city also.
Right.
Yeah.
To the city. It was already given to the city before the agreement.
They're going to identify us, man,
Yes.
Okay, okay.
and they're going to cover it with their insurance.
Yes.
Okay.
That's already done.
Yeah, okay, just, because I can, you're
Understood.
looking at it the other way too. Okay, yeah.
Can I ask why you're seeking help with Republic instead of WC or one of the local companies like we typically do?
Because we have a contract.
We have a contract with them, and they, in the past, Doors always assisted, and I think they donated them.
Yes, they
They
don't-
did, the last few years, they've been donating them for free.
Republic or WC?
Republic,
All right, okay, I misunderstood that.
Yes.
Same question. Last year, was it? Good question.
yeah, they donated them.
Okay. All right. Any other questions, guys?
No, sir.
If you wish, you can make a motion for all items of this agenda.
I'll second Josh's motion.
Well, you only went 1, 2, 3.
Okay, I'll make the motion, we approve all subcategories of item 10,
Okay.
A through F.
Okay, we have a motion from Josh to approve the request made by the Devine Chamber of Commerce for the Cactus Festival on all items A through F.
And I second it.
We have a second from Debbie. Anything further, fellas? Ladies and gentlemen. All right, all in favor? Motion passes 5-0. Thank you very much.
Thank y'all, thank you.
I just want to invite, I know we're coming to the festival, and there's so much going on outside, but please take an opportunity to come through the community center. It will be transformed. We'll have youth art exhibit, and last year we had over 900 pieces of artwork from the students in schools, and then this year we've also invited the daycares to participate with the banners. And we will also have a new exhibit this year with the Tiny Town Texas Museum. Will be here set up right over there out of Castroville with one of the things is the dinosaur egg that's certified for the Smithsonian with the x-ray, and it has an actual skeleton. You can see that, and there's a wonderful display, something different. The Garden Club, we have the Friends of the Library, we have some
Two local artists.
two local authors that will also be having their book. We will also have a historical exhibit. So there's lots to see. And if any of you want to spend an hour to come in and just say, hey,
Share with
and we do need a few people in here to just kind of welcome people. That's all we need. So if you want something to do and help, just show up. But please at least come through, because I know some of you did last year. It was a really nice exhibit. Thank you very much.
We are having a pep rally to kick it off. I've invited the high school, of course, we're not going to have the band here because it's area competition. But the football team, the cheerleaders, and everything, it's a kickoff into homecoming week. So they're very excited, and so a lot of the high school will be coming and participating on the main stage from noon to 1 at the high school pep rally to kick off the festival. So thank y'all very much.
Thanks a bunch. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, they advanced over here.
But I mean, it's like the contest day changes.
Yep.
The area changes, usually the last Saturday in October.
Oh, he wouldn't. There's a lot of them.
Hang on just a second, guys. I want to refresh on something.
This is my first time getting to see this revised contract.
This doesn't have.
They sent it to us.
I didn't see it.
Which one?
This
Okay, this is the one they just sent us in our packet. That got, well, we got it, I forget what
The only thing that's different is that one, item 9 was blacked out.
well, they blocked it out and they should have.
Yeah,
This is, there's a signed one that was in our packet,
that's from January.
okay, that it's January 2024, got signed. And then the other one is what we worked off of when we talked about the contract, which was January 18th. This Is this what we worked off of, that was in our packet on January 18th, that we all discussed? Yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, blah, blah, blah. However, somehow, and I don't know how, the one that got signed is not even close
Correct.
to what we talked about and
Right. Okay, let's
approved.
open the item. I just wanted to review it. I haven't opened the item yet. I haven't called the agenda item.
I'm sorry. I
That's
thought you
okay. I
did.
was
I'm so
looking for the
sorry.
same thing you're talking about. Yeah, I'm like, what the heck? Okay, all right. Okay, moving on. Agenda item number 11, consider and act upon the Little League contract, per my request. This is an annual thing that we do every year with the Little League. We really appreciate everything they do, and we try and work with them the best we can. To preface, how did this is not the contract that we agreed to last year. Hi, Roar, thanks a bunch. Give us just a second, please.
Well, let me help you out. So
Okay.
when I first went to the city after our January meeting, this was the contract that was given to me, the one that I signed. And then not even like maybe 2 to 3 weeks later, I got a call from one of the city workers telling me that David wanted me to go back in to sign the newer one. But because it's been that long that I've been trying to get into one of the light companies' account that I didn't even go back because I still to this day cannot get into. We have 2 different light companies for 2 different bosses, and one of them I cannot get into that account because I'm not access to that account. And so I've tried everything else. I've tried old board members, tax ID number. Apparently it's the wrong one, and I'm like, I only have one tax ID number, and everything else. And even today they refused. And I told them today they refused to give me any information on that light bill. And I told them that after today, if I couldn't receive anything, if I didn't get an email with just a current light bill, I was going to have to close that account and open a new one because I need to get. When I talked to Dora needed the actual light bill. And I cannot get one for one account. And it's TXU, and it is extremely hard if you are not listed on that account.
So they're still sending you a bill?
Well, it's automatically withdrawn from our checking account.
Oh, gosh.
So that's why,
Put a
and
stop
I don't get a
date
bill.
on that.
I don't get a bill. All I get is a receipt. I don't even get a bill. I just get a receipt saying X amount of dollars has been withdrawn.
Okay.
And so I was just like, it's not big, it's not big. Like, my last light bill was $30. But I need the actual physical light bill in order for us to move the light company over. And so that has been a real struggle. And so when David called to renew, to go sign the newer one, I guess the one that we finished and with all the updates, I was like, okay, well, let me finish this first and try to get hold of this. And then when my season starts, I'm sorry, everything gets thrown in the back and I focus on my season. And this year my season ran all the way until like the middle of August, because my daughter made state for Little League.
And that wasn't done well.
Oh, well, it was just my daughter. She went in and we interleagued with Hondo, and she went all the way to August to state, and they got second out of 3 teams, but they got second.
That's right. Well, I saw that on the camera.
It seems to me like we need to be able to act on this contract. We may have to wait because we're gonna have to get a clean contract of what it should be, right?
So we have the clean one. I think there is,
I don't see it.
We don't have that.
Yeah.
okay, there's supposed to be a newer one.
Well,
Is it all about right
we don't
now?
have it.
It may be.
Okay, what we're referring to, what I'm referring to is, I was quite certain that we went ahead and agreed to take over the electric account
Yes.
under the name of the city, and because that way, other people can use it when the Little League is not using it, and then they can pay for the lights.
Yes.
And, and also it should save the Little League money, so we pay the bill, then the Little League pays us for the bill. That was one concession that we gave last year. I thought it was a great one, to help everybody out. So we have a clause in here that first come, first served basis, during their off season. But it doesn't have anything else to offer. And it's got my signature, I'm guilty. I have a tendency sometimes,
Well, I'm beginning to wonder if the one you signed isn't a previous contract. You know what I'm saying? Like it got printed out.
It looks like it's been
the current
around
one,
for a
but
while. Yeah.
it
Yeah.
I think it just got, the wrong one got printed, you signed it, everything,
Yeah.
everybody's happy and everybody goes on their way, and it really wasn't the contract that should have been.
And that's why I think we need to wait until we have a clean printed contract.
I agree with you, Jeff,
I've got
because
a feeling we're gonna have a meeting next week.
I don't think we need to change anything from what we agreed to in January. What's wrong?
I'm just looking forward to another meeting next week.
Yeah, well.
Yay.
The,
I get it.
the aforementioned.
I don't have to like it,
Oh,
I don't have
it's
to like
either
it.
that or you have to listen to me for 30 minutes about it, so.
So I
Okay.
would like to change one thing if we are gonna do that. So this summer I had 2 water bills. And one of them was in September, and obviously we haven't even started, and that one was $750. And it was just, some kid was on the field and turned on the water spigot.
No, there's.
And so I feel that if I am gonna give up control of my little league, then that should be y'all's water bill as well, during my off
I agree.
season.
I thought we
Just
I
during
thought
off season,
that's what we had.
okay, whatever we use during season,
No.
because we do water
Right.
during season, we don't water during off season, like
When
everything
your-
is usually.
Right, when your season is done.
I
you'll-
cut everything off, yes.
Correct, well, you don't cut it off.
I don't cut the water off, but I did this time,
But-
I called and I was like, hey, if I'm gonna write this check, can you please send somebody to come cut it and lock
Be
it?
accessible.
We agreed that the bathrooms would be secured and the water would be shut off when it was off-season.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, we did.
Well, the water can be,
Well-
okay, it needs to be able to be used.
Or changed over to the city's name.
Okay, right, the water, okay, was already under the city's name.
No, they had an account, and that's
Well,
why.
Well, I know, okay, they get used up to so many gallons, okay?
Okay,
And-
I think.
But I agree, okay, if it's the off-season, okay, the water, you shouldn't have to pay for that, that's a no-brainer.
But the water, I wouldn't think, if some kid turned that on, that shouldn't have been a possibility. So I'm just asking how that can be
We
secured.
need to get that.
There's a lot of different water spigots, so there's one in both dugouts on the big field. There's actually
Oh,
little
they
water
turn
hooks where you can, and so they actually turned it on. And it
Yeah.
wasn't a very big, like, turn on, but when I got a call from one of the city workers, and she was like, hey, you have a big water bill, you need to come and pay it.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Those
That's what I
spigots
looked
need to be
and saw what it
secured
was.
so that nobody can just walk up there and turn them on. Should be like
There
somebody
should be a
from the
way to
city.
lock those up, even the
Yeah.
spigots.
I mean, because that's gonna happen.
So I'm fine with just shutting it off, and my biggest thing is shutting it off and locking it.
Yeah, they need.
Because I do have, oh, there's another one, I do have the people from the apartments, I have no idea why, but they run a water hose to my T-ball field.
Oh
And
my
they
God.
turn on the water when we shut it off on our
And
side.
that's what I'm saying. That shouldn't be possible. That
So I
shouldn't
would prefer it to be
shouldn't
shut
even
off
be
and
possible.
locked.
That's like,
I think the best thing to do is just turn the water off and we'll lock it
And lock
next
it.
time.
yeah.
That sounds wonderful.
If we're securing the restroom, why do we need water?
Well, another thing, okay, with respect to that, I think it's great, but we also need to be able to go in and turn it on to water the field on occasion.
Yes, sir.
Okay, you don't just go the
Yes,
entire
never done.
off-season without water, well, that's part of
The
the
city
problem.
could do that, right?
Okay, the city would do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The city would do it.
We can do that, because I mean, on the spigots, you can't lock them, so, I mean,
Just
we,
turn water
Yeah,
off.
So you can turn the water on at the meter.
Right.
And run the, if you wanted to.
right.
Because even though grass is dormant, doesn't mean you stop watering on occasion.
Well,
Right.
You don't have to water as often, okay, but in order to keep the grass healthy and have, healthy in the spring and so forth and so on, if you have a dry spell like we've had here in the last 4 weeks.
Oh, yeah, it needs water, yeah.
It should be watered.
Well-
But as long as we control it,
Right.
yes.
well, we did agree last January that during Little League season, the water and sewer account would be in Little League's name.
Right.
And then their off-season, it just comes back to the city.
Right.
So if they just want to turn it off, and then Pete can go do whatever needs to be done if circumstances warrant.
Sure, exactly. I
But
agree.
yes, that is one of the things we discussed and approved.
Okay, and since you're here, okay, we don't want to waste your time. You know, it's been a long meeting
Oh, no,
already.
you're fine.
Are there any other things that you may be interested in that we can do to help the league? Okay, obviously, we can rebuild all kinds of things, but we're not going to be able to afford that. Okay, we need to do it incrementally and such. My position still is that I think that the Little League park should be part of our park system. That's my position, and, you know, because we have limited resources for parks and things of that nature. Okay, but anyway, if there's something else that pops out, or that's on your mind right now, we'd love to entertain it, think about it, toss it around. But right now, you know, we're taking care of the entire park in the off season. You got the inside during the season, because you need to manicure the fields and all that good stuff. You know, so if that's okay with you, it's okay with us. But I think, for example, that when you, okay, how about the old bathroom that used to be there at the third baseline? Is that's completely shut off,
That
right?
is completely shut off and closed.
Okay.
That is like locked, doors locked. I had someone come in and try to do better locks because they still try to pry them open, doors all bent.
Did it work?
I haven't gone and actually looked at it, but I think whatever, if anything, the little, there's some wooden things there, so I guess kind of block in case you're walking out, nobody can see in. And I think if those were off and whoever's trying to break in, they're not as secluded to try to break in, because now everybody can see what they're doing there. Last year, I think one of the big problems we had was glass in the dugouts. Like, we cleaned glass for days. All these little pieces of glass, because there was lots of beer bottles broken in the dugouts. So, especially on the Coach Pitch field, which is a smaller field for the littler kids, and we told coaches, hey, if you see anything, please just pick it up, because if someone cuts themselves, I don't have to deal with that.
Yeah.
Is there any street lights?
We do have two. They're not actually, you can see a lot with the streetlights, but they're both on Park, and then just the corners of Upson and Sayer. And I don't think they were meant for us. I think they were actually meant for the church or something. But they give us lots of pretty good decent light. They're lights to our buildings and to that one bathroom by the third baseline, but for me, I don't think I need a lot of lighting.
But it probably is secure, help with security wise, at nighttime or something like that. So that's why I'm asking, is there any other poles out there that we can get AEP to put additional
Well, you
lights?
already got these light poles. That can have lights when they're not on. Dave's got power with each pole.
Yeah.
You know, a couple of security lights.
Yeah.
So, did you find the bathrooms in that field to be adequate during the season?
Yes, they're just limited. There's only two in each one. Well, the boys has one and then a urinal, and then the girls only have two. So of course during opening day, we get some porta potties brought into the place. There's multiple people. Opening day is like 300 plus people, and so it's usually a big chaotic day. So we get more bathrooms probably for that day. We usually only do it for that day.
Could that restroom be remodeled?
It would be expensive. I think the one in the third base side, you know, I think. Well, that thing has been a tough thing for years and years and years.
I think there's a water leak in the ground or somewhere. Whenever we had the freeze, only because that water is always turned off. We only turn it on when we water. Then that water gets turned off. But other than that, we just shut it off. That's the one by the T-ball side. That the people that live there, they run a water hose to it.
So it's not needed.
Not really.
So even if we knock it down?
It would be nice, but it's.
Well, it's, I was thinking maybe more of an equipment shed, this kind of thing. I mean, it looks like it's falling apart. You know, the top part, you got cinder block, I believe, and then you have the wood part.
It is falling, it is pushed back. I think we have the city engineer went out there once, and it is pushed, it's like it's pulling apart. But our big goal is to actually move and just do two big fields instead of one big field, two small fields. That has been a big goal, but this year, charter dues were like almost $3,500, and so it used to be like maybe $900, $800, and they just jumped up really high. Insurance stuff is really high, and so charter fees and insurance were close to $3,500, so it kind of took a big cut of the budget we had. We try to skim it and try to ask for help to skim the field to get it into a softball field, but even at that was a good 20 grand. And so it wasn't something that we were like, maybe not right now.
For what softball field?
The big field, to turn it into a softball field and just put a portable down.
Oh, why would it be 20 grand?
That's what they were charging. To skim it, like an outside company to come skim it and turn it into a softball field. I guess the clay, I have no idea. But that was the quote they gave me, and I was like, I'm sorry, we don't.
So you would have a completely dirt infield for all games,
For all games.
even the boys?
That's what we thought, and then we had plans to, actually, like, one of our board members has actually drawn up to move the field out, like, closer to the road, where it's pretty much on the road, like, really close to the road, and then move it out, and then put the other one in the back and have 2 full-size fields. One softball, one baseball. That's what he has plans for. But it would require, like, moving some light poles, or
Yeah, it would be.
it would actually require tearing down the whole concession stand, which
Well, it might need to be torn down sooner than later.
yeah. Like, there's a fireplace, and like, I don't know if we can actually do that, like, as far as Little League can go and have someone come tear it down for us. I don't know how the city would feel about that.
You mean the existing concession stand?
Only because it is tied into the older, what was there, a library?
Years and years ago.
A library, there's a fireplace, there's just all kinds of stuff there that was.
Well, we did a tour David and I did a tour of that building, before the last contract, and it's on its last legs. There's no doubt about it. So, but anyway, I suppose for the meantime, since we agreed last year about the electricity and such, we need to proceed in that direction and get another contract drawn up that we all agreed on and then put it in use this time. It just fell through the cracks last year. So.
I don't, like, my season starts now. Like, I've already started my
Right.
season. We have our opening day, we have everything scheduled already. So, like,
Right.
I start now, and it's,
Okay, well,
But
perhaps
this
we
would
could.
be effective in January. If we approve this now, it'll be effective January, right? 'Cause- or do we want it to be effective as soon as we get a new copy, and
Maybe
then
we talk 2
through
months
all of
worth.
next year?
Yeah, well, either way, their season's a little different, obviously. So what was customary before this contract?
We normally do it in
Wasn't it?
January.
Oh, it's always, okay.
It's
it's always
always
been
been
January.
January.
But
Okay, leave
before
it
it
there.
was January to December 31st.
Right.
Right,
I had the full year contract.
okay.
So
we
can
leave
I
it
ask
there.
one question? If we're gonna do the electricity in the city's name and then just charge them for the electricity, I'm wanting to simplify for them would be to just put the water also in the city's name and just charge them for the gallons that are used during that time.
Well, no, the water, we operate the water, we don't operate the electricity. So they can still have the account, and then the account is just shut off when they're done, and then you restart the account again.
Okay, I was just wondering why they even, if it's a city facility, why they had to have the account in their name. I guess to be able to charge them for the water.
We charge them for water out of
Yeah,
50.
I was just asking like,
Is it 50?
It's 50.
50, so it's a substantial water use.
yeah, no, I didn't know whether, like the city could just take readings, at the beginning and the end of their season or during those months and just charge them for the water. That's why I was asking that, just to simplify it. I didn't know.
Well, I
that
think
was-
for their accounting too is helpful, then they know how much they're using and
Yeah, they know where
whatnot.
they're at.
Yeah,
I thought we had said for general public use that they wouldn't allow folks to use the lights and just pay a fee for the electric. Could we just?
We
Yes,
discussed that.
yes, but that's on their off-season only.
Right,
That's why the electric needs to
that
go
would be
to the
determined
cities.
by our city staff.
okay.
Yeah,
Okay, so we are saying city will maintain the electric year round, they just pay it during their season.
yes.
Right,
Okay,
right.
all right. And then paragraph 8, this last sentence says we will maintain vegetation in the fence lines and the curbs and gutters. It means outside the fence line
Yeah,
at all times?
Yes.
yeah.
Okay. And paragraph 10, water shut off to the general public, just so that we don't have anybody turning on faucets again.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about, like, they'll
Okay,
charge.
I got it.
See, the question I have is that even if we get somebody to come out here during the off season and want to rent that field, and the grass is high
That's why we're supposed to be taking care of it.
on the inside of the field?
On their
Yes.
off
Yes.
season.
On the off season, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
You can bring it back, okay.
Aurora.
Yes.
What were you saying about the second? I know we've been emailing each other back and
Yes.
forth on electricity. You still are not able to?
No,
get the
they
second
won't
one?
let me get into the second account. I told them that if anything, I would probably just have to transfer it to the one we have and then see if I can get a bill and all that. So it may be like another month or two. They won't let me get in at all.
So you're
Me
not,
and like, I think I tried 3 other previous board members, and I've been here for 4 years and still like none of us can get on.
so you're not able to present them with your minutes from your yearly elections?
They don't want anything. And I told them like, my turnaround is different people every year.
Yeah.
I don't have it set where where you give me a 2-year term or anything like that. It's different people
So
every year.
are you able to cancel it yourself?
I should be able to cancel it. What I did with the last one, because they wouldn't let me into the other one, they were both TXU. They wouldn't let me into the building lights. So what I did was just call Just Energy and had Just Energy go and connect it under their name, pay the previous bill, and that's all I did. But Just Energy, just for those lights, I paid $400 a month on my off season.
Yeah, in the off season?
In my off season.
Well, yeah, we should be able to.
Because I have service fees, and so it's not, nothing is on it now. Nothing, we don't turn that one on at all.
Okay, okay. All right, well,
That's all. David can take care of that.
yeah, I'm sure we can.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, I think we need to move on, guys. Aurora, thanks a bunch. I'm sorry we didn't have a better,
Oh, no, you're
anyway,
right.
okay? And then, hopefully, we are gonna have another meeting pretty soon. More than likely next week, we'll know for sure here in a day or two. Okay? And at that time, we'll have it all drawn up again, and hopefully I won't siphon all copy.
So let me ask you, Dora, all you need is, you need an actual physical bill?
That's what our agent is doing, an actual bill. Now, the other bill that you sent was good.
Was perfect, yes.
That was good. We just need the other bill. What you sent me, he said was one.
I didn't think so.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Aurora. Thank you so much. All right, that concludes agenda item 11. We'll move on to 12. Consider an act upon a quote from Wayne Rogers Construction to increase the pavement depth from 1.5 inches to 2 inches. David, you're on.
Yeah, so Mr. Councilor Miller asked a question during our last presentation when Wayne Rogers was awarded the contract about the depth of the top pavement that was to be used. And in the contract, it said 1.5 or inch and a half. The contract recommended 2 inches. So Mr. Miller asked us if we could bring back a quote price of what it would cost to add the additional half inch. And we have a proposal here on item number 12. Mr. Wayne Rogers Construction. You can see it's $43,235.40 was the estimated cost to add additional half inch to the base.
To the asphalt.
To the asphalt. Sorry, to the asphalt.
And the 2 inches customary.
Yes, sir, it's gonna be, instead of 1.5 inches, it's gonna be 2 inch.
Right, like 2 inches is the norm.
Yeah, because anything less than that is, we're gonna wind up in
Like the
in a
streets
bad
right now.
situation like we have now.
If we're gonna do it, we gotta do it right.
We have the budget space for that?
I know, I know we wanted to keep some of the shavings, from the asphalt. We looked at it today, it's not even worth keeping. It's so thin that, at least for that street. Which is
So McAnally?
McAnally,
Yeah. There's a hardly.
yeah, there's nothing on there.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, any questions?
Well, do we have the budget space for this?
Yes, we do have budget space for this.
It just takes it on what we get to do.
I'll make the motion that we approve the proposal for $43,235.40 to increase the depth of the asphalt from 1.5 inches to 2 inches.
Okay, we have a motion from Jeff to approve the increase in pavement depth of 1.5 to 2 inches. And amend the budget accordingly.
I'll second that.
Hold on, $43,235. Gotta love the 40 cents.
I could negotiate for you if you want to.
Yeah, hey, I'm
Let me make that an even
I'm
number.
not paying that 40 cents, you can just forget it. No, that's right. But anyway, and to amend the budget accordingly, I got off track, or are you still okay with that? Okay. And then,
Was it Jeff and Josh, Mayor?
I believe it was.
We don't have a second yet.
There's no second yet.
Michael second. Okay, we have a second from Michael. Okay, motion from Jeff, second from Michael. Anything further? All in favor? Motion carries 5-0. But it's starting to get done.
Turn the page.
Literally. Okay, everybody. Agenda item 13, discuss the code compliance department and the fire department. Requested by me and David. And Chief Atkinson is here to give us an update and answer any concerns that any of us might have. Chief, you wish to go first?
I can. You want me to go ahead, Dave? All right, that's fine. I'll do that. So as of 5 o'clock today, Devine Fire and Rescue had assisted or conducted 47 initial inspections that the permits had initiated prior to July 8th. In other words, before we had ever stepped in to do this, there were some permits that were out there that needed to be handled, and we handled about 47 of those. As of July 8th, 2024, we've now handled 34 of the initial inspections. Since then, we have partnered with Bureau Veritas or handed off certain inspections, about 5 of those to Bureau Veritas since then. And we've also worked with or contacted about 100 folks involving code enforcement. Now, on the inspection side, briefly, I want to touch on, we said 47 before July 8th, 34. Those are initial inspections. A lot of those have had second, third, fourth inspections. So when you hear those numbers, it's not just that's it, that's all the inspections we've done. Those are the initial inspections. That's when we make the initial contact, and from there, a lot of those have had sequential inspections afterwards. With the code enforcement, we've rolled out our 90-day platform that we talked about when we took over code enforcement. We spent that first month really trying to push the conversation and talk about what was coming and get it out there. I know Josh reached out to me at one point and said, hey, you guys are really putting out some good information, and that was our goal. We just wanted to spend that first 30 days and get information out there. We spent the next 30 days and actually started contacting folks saying, hey, this is why you would be in violation. Hey, this is why you would not be in compliance. Hey, these are things you need to look at. So that's what we've done over the last, the next 30 days, which would bring us through the 60 days. Over the last week, we have started to actually issue the letters. The letters of, if you don't fix this in 10 days, the next step is we go to court. Now, I do want to emphasize, because I know this is a hot topic, and you guys, as we start to knock these doors, are already getting phone calls. And man, this is a good time. I will tell you that as we start to push the fines and the fees that go with this, more and more of those calls are going to come in. I want you to understand that we work at your pleasure, okay? So we're going to enforce the codes as they're written. We are going to go out and hand out the letters to the people that deserve them according to the codes as they're written. I need you to understand that you're going to get phone calls. When you do that, you can explain to them that everything that they're getting, right, is in that letter. They can show up, they can have their day in court, they can battle it, whatever the case may be. But the only fair way to do this is to do it across the board, period. And so that's an important aspect of this, is to say that, look, I know there's going to be people that come to you, they're going to knock on your door, they know you personally, you know them personally, and I can tell you over the last 60 days, the phrase that has gotten under my skin the most is, well, it's always been there. We've done it that way for 30 years. Well, that's been there that way for 40 years. What are you talking about? Well, I didn't have it 40 years ago. We just started. And so that's been my answer on most of this. I had nothing to do with compliance until 60 days ago, and now we do. And so now we're starting to really enforce some of these things. And because of that, it does rattle a few cages and a few trees. We've spent the last 60 days doing nothing but informing folks. We've spent the last 60 days just trying to educate folks on what it is that needs to be fixed, what needs to be covered. We are getting ready to start rolling out with the fines and the fees and going to court. That is the report I have for you. I'm willing to answer any questions you would like. Anything you have for us, I'm here to answer questions.
I just want to say, we knew that was going to happen.
Yes, sir.
Okay? And I've actually had 3 or 4 people call me and a little bit irate And I said, well, number one, we're talking about like brush and bulk in the right of ways at the moment. And then I said, well, we're tired of seeing piles of trash all over the city, okay, when it's not supposed to be there for pickup.
Yes, sir.
Right? And he said, well, why did you pick it up? I said, he said, I've always done it this way, exactly like you said.
Yes, sir.
And this is a good guy, a friend of mine.
Of course.
And I said, well, it wasn't supposed to be that way. It's just that code compliance has always been a very, very tough issue for the city of Devine.
Very much so.
Right? Keeping people, once you get them qualified, then they leave, the list goes on.
Yes, sir.
Okay? And so it was very, very difficult to enforce. Okay? And you're right, it is going to happen. And I want to say something just real quick. So here in the last couple weeks, especially because you're starting to get more animated, well, they're getting more animated.
Yes, sir.
Okay? And so
And that's only going to increase.
I'll get a story, okay, and I'll pay close attention to it, and then I'll call David, and I'll say, hey, and he, first of all, he already knows all about it.
Correct.
He says, well, let me tell you this side of it first.
Correct.
And there's no comparison.
Yes, sir.
Okay? So, you know, you got human,
The human factor.
yeah, the human factor, okay, they're deeply involved in their project and their issue, whereas we're trying to step back and look at it, just like you said, across the board.
Yes, sir.
Okay, but I will say this on a couple of these issues that I followed up on, okay? Everyone was professional, okay? It had a good result in the end, okay? I spoke with our customers, okay? And I told them, I said, you know, this is a work in progress both ways.
Yes, sir.
We're talking about education, okay, and so forth. And in the long run, it's going to be really great for the city for this to work.
I concur.
Okay, and so, and then I asked each one, and I said, well, was your final result good? Yeah, it was great. They were very helpful. You know, we just misunderstood the people in the front office and such.
Yes.
So, I just wanted to relay that because it's not always, you know, I mean, it just goes with the territory about the job you're trying to do.
So I want to say, of those 100 people that, and I want to give exceptional props. Captain DeLucia was with me earlier, but unfortunately we're on a call right now, so he had to leave to handle a few things. Oh, never mind, he's made his way back in. So, I want to give props to Captain DeLucia because he was the first one we sent to code compliance school. He did all the things he needed to do to get his code compliance and all that. He's been diving himself, and look, I'm not going to say anything about his spry young age, but he's got other things he could be doing. He doesn't have to do this. And he took this on. You know, we're talking about a guy that was a master sergeant in the United States Army and did 23 years. He served his time. He could very easily ride off into the sunset. Nobody would think any less of it. But he dove into this. He has just jumped headfirst into the codes. He's researching this constantly. First thing he does when he comes in of a morning is to look and see what's there, and if we have a new punch list from the mayor, and we go through them, and we knock them out one by one, and we take a look. And so, you know, you go back to the professionalism. I want to talk about the 100 people that we've made in contact. I would say, would it be fair to say about 50 of those have resolved, and typically it was just about information?
Yes, sir.
It was about them being educated. You're 100% right. The thing about enforcement is people don't know that it's supposed to be that way unless someone enforces it. And so if no one has ever told them, how do we expect them to know what the rules are? Well, they can go on and they can find the codes, sure. And I would ask how many of you have pulled up the codes recently and just for the fun of it, at night, taking a look at, you know, who can tell me the exact cubic footage for what is allowed to be picked up or sitting on the curb? Anybody? Yeah,
6.
yeah, okay, all right, I'm talking to the council. Fair enough. 6 cubic feet. Here's the next question. Can you describe 6 cubic feet for me of trash?
Ugly.
That's a cube, 6 foot tall, 6 foot wide, etc.
So here's the deal, right? Is that
And 6 foot in every direction.
and every piece of trash is different, right? So
Which is not very big.
Which is not very big. You're correct. So my point in saying this is a lot of this was just about education. You know, half of the people that we're coming in contact with, they weren't defiant, they weren't upset. You talk about they got a good result from us. We got a good result from them. We were expecting a little pushback, and we got a little, but not very much. Most everybody was, well, I didn't know that was a rule. Well, when did that come into play? Well, it's been in play. It's just nobody was telling you or enforcing it. And a lot of those are getting picked up and cleaned up. The flip side of that is we're still going to rattle some cages.
Yeah.
There are going to be some people who are not happy about this.
When the letters hit.
When the letters hit and they really start seeing what the fines are going to be, what the possible penalties are, and I do want to say that, possible penalties. That is the other thing I would caution you on. Just like you hit, Mr. Mayor, there's going to be a couple different sides to every one of these stories, right? That's just the matter of the fact. But we're always going to go by the code. We're always going to go by exactly what the code says, which also goes with the enforcement side. You guys have to understand that if you call us and you say, hey, or if one of your constituents calls us and they say, hey, I've got a problem over here at XYZ Street, and we go and we make contact, they have 10 days from the day they get that letter to make that fix.
Right.
And if they fix it, it's done.
Right.
Now, on the 12th day, if they bring a new problem out, that starts the clock again.
Yeah.
That's the law.
That's another thing.
Right?
Yeah.
There's nothing we can do about that.
Yeah,
So you
those
say, well, they
10
just put it up for 3 days. Okay, well, but they put it up for 3 days. When we went back on the 10th day to take a look and to take our pictures, it wasn't there. The problem didn't exist. And so you have to understand that, unfortunately, that is some of the things that we're already seeing that we're dealing with. The only way I want to go back, I can't remember the young man's name, that was the planning guy. Brandon? Is that it? He hit the nail on the head. Code enforcement is about how good the codes are, how well they're written, how strong they are. Our job is just to enforce what's on the paper. We don't get to make the codes. We don't, and we've told people that. We don't write them. But having the proper zones, and let me just tell you that if you make a concession for one person, the person down the street, it's impossible for us to enforce that. I'll give you another example. We had somebody call and say, hey, somebody's running a business out of their house. It's in a family residence, blah, blah, blah. And I go to have a conversation with them. And I look right down the street to where there's a semi for somebody who has a variance that's running a business out of their home and has for the last several years and gets a variance every single year. That's extremely hard to enforce.
Thank you.
I have a hard time enforcing the codes that are on the books if we're going to give everybody down the street a variance. I can't do it. And neither can Captain Delucia. And so I go back to saying that the codes are only as strong as you, the council, allow them to be. We work for you. You give us our authority. You give us our jurisdiction. And so it's on you guys to say how strong you want these codes to be. We're going to enforce them to the letter of the law. That's who we are. That's what we do. That's why I have a master chief handling this. That's all he knows, black and white, right? But if the code is very vague, or if we've allowed 6 different variances, or we allowed a variance for 20 years, our hands are pretty well tied. That's a pretty hard argument to fight. And when it goes to court, we're going to lose.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's the
I had that conversation with Chief DeLucia not that long ago, and my thing on this is, we're trying to clean the city up.
Correct, yes,
We
sir.
know there's gonna be a firestorm here at the beginning.
Yes, sir.
But it will calm down.
Eventually,
The
yes.
longer it goes on.
Correct.
And people see that things start to, hey, it's starting to look better around here. Well,
100%.
it's not magic, it's because we're actually trying to enforce a few things, and that's the key. It hasn't been enforced in a long time.
You're correct.
So I personally appreciate the efforts that y'all are making.
Well, I appreciate that. And I will go on to say, I've had some people go, well, now that you're getting into the 90 days and we're starting to hand out these letters, does that mean you come across somebody and you just hammer them? No. We still are going to go with the approach of education first. If this is the first time we've made contact with you, and now we have iWorks, the new platform in place, which that's going to be heaven sent, and I'll discuss that momentarily, but the idea of being able to track a particular address and the issues that have been there is going to give us more backing in being able to enforce this. And so we're going to know, have we touched this address? No, we haven't touched this address. Okay, we're going to start out with education. We're not just going to come in and hammer you. We're going to say, hey, here's the violation. This is why it's a violation. We're going to educate you on it. And then we're going to tell you how to fix it. We're going to trust that you're going to do that. We're going to give you a couple days without the letter and the whole 9 yards. And then if we come back and it hasn't been fixed, okay, now we're going to get you with the letter. Your clock's going to start. You're going to get your 10 days. At the end of the 10 days, if it's not cleaned up, you're going to get hit with a fine. Plain and simple.
And then if you take care of it before your court date, it's dismissed.
It's dismissed.
You still have to go to court. Like, even if you fix it, you still have to go to court.
Correct. You have to show that you fixed it. Correct.
So what is our process for fixing some of these codes that just don't make sense? For instance, you might be getting after that child development, whatever it is, I wouldn't know there because there's sign out front, but means you also then have to enforce every single yard sign that's not a political sign within 90 days of an election.
You're 100% correct, and I go back to it's as strong as the codes are. It's all about how the codes are written. I can't advise you in that manner, and that's why you have a city attorney, but I can tell you that you're absolutely right. If I enforce that, if somebody complains about that and I go and enforce that, the next call that comes in about the yard sign that is oversized, we have to go enforce it in the same manner. Now, I will also say, just like the first time I stood before you, we don't go out and look for these complaints, right? The sign, size sign, that's not a safety complaint. That's not what we go look for. We go and look for safety issues, right? That's what we personally go look for. But if somebody brings a complaint to us, we're going to address it to the letter of the law, because that's what we're required to do.
You just talk about it.
Did someone complain about the sign for the school?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, the daycare is right up the street from Zach Beal's place. That's not what you're talking about?
No, sir.
I don't know, must be another one.
Okay. Yeah, no, the daycare that I know of has no complaints.
Okay.
But that is a prime example.
But it's a good example.
It's a good example.
Yeah,
I just
okay.
thought he was using it as an example.
So obviously we're trying to work to that end. Just tonight, we visited about code and such and what have you. We've got a guy trying to update, bring it to life. We also have the zoning reform committee that can also make suggestions, down the line. So we're working to that end.
Absolutely.
Now, obviously, everyone sitting here knows there's not going to be a utopian situation.
No.
Okay, but some things, do not make sense, and I agree with Josh on that. A lot of this stuff is very outdated. Some of it just isn't realistic for a town with the culture and the nature of Devine. Okay, but anyway, I think, Josh, I think it's a great idea, okay? But it's just gonna take time for everyone, and once again, you said education is the number one issue.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, on the, what's the thing, the name of where you call it text again?
Text.gov.
No, the
the iWorks. The iWorks file.
iWorks, so is that up and running and working and everything?
So it is on the city website. It is, we're pushing people that direction. Is it going to be updated and changed as we go? Yes, because it is a learning process. But it is up and operational. And we can now track every city permit that comes through there. People can go there and they can put in the code complaints that they want to put in. We did see today, we went in to put in a code complaint, and for whatever reason, the only one that was there was weeds. You could then type whatever the actual code complaint was, but the only one that popped up was weeds. And so they're fixing that, things like that, right? We just launched it. When did we launch it? On this week?
October 1st.
Yeah, October 1st. So it just got launched, but it is going to streamline the entire process. And I want to start my next statement by saying it is no fault of anyone that is working here currently, but the previous system was miserable. It was post-it notes and emails and phone calls, and there was this is why things fell through the crack. This is why people got missed, and they had to wait 2 and 3 weeks, because they would go and they would talk to one person, and they'd say, yeah, we'll get somebody right there. And then it would sit for 2 weeks because there was no system to put it in, and they had 50 other things they had to do. And then the next thing you know, it's like, 2 weeks later, here you go, and now you got it. And then, I wrote it down on a post-it note, but then I lost the post-it notes. Now it was an absolute nightmare. And so having this iWorks system is going to be so great, because we can track it at the fire department, the city can track it, the folks that work at City Hall can put it straight into the system, so there's no, I sent it to an email and then I called your phone to make sure you get the email. No, it's all in there. And when he goes there, we get it. The first thing Captain DeLucia does when he walks into the office in the morning, he opens iWorks and he goes right to it and he sees what's there. And so we start tracking that right off the bat. Yes, ma'am?
So someone, because we didn't know iWorks was really working yet, well, I'm sure the general public doesn't know. If they did it on the MyTextGov, if they put a complaint in there, do you guys get it?
I'll defer that question to David.
That goes to the city, and it's a totally separate program.
So if they did a code compliance complaint on the MyTextGov, because up until right now, that's the only way they had to do it, how do they find out about that? Or do they find out about that?
They do find out about it. So, make no mistake, our department and the city, me, Dora, and the staff is in contact with the fire department.
Every day.
Probably on a daily basis.
Yeah, every day.
Ever since we initiated this thing, number one. My number one goal for going to our works was to limit the foot traffic coming into City Hall, to allow a person to go onto a platform to be able to report code violations or to do a permit, sit there at home, fill out all the information, upload it, pay, do everything online right there. And we have an automatic timestamp for when that case is initiated, initiated, tracked, and completed.
And that's
number one.
awesome.
And let me finish, please. The timeline of a initiation of a case starts when the person submits all the required paperwork. Communication is the key, and we talk to them, and we walk through everything. But if you come down 2 weeks from now, pick up application and say, I'm getting ready to build a carport, okay? That process, as far as the city's timeline, don't start until you bring the application back with the fees, with the conceptual design, and everything that you require to initiate that contract. It don't start 2 weeks ago when you said you were going to do it. It starts when you actually have the actual paperwork, the fees, and everything like that, and it's submitted to the city. That's when the timeline starts. So I'm saying that for a reason, because the noise you're hearing is the city's taking 3 months to do my application. When actually the application wasn't submitted.
I have not been hearing that kind of noise.
Well, I have them, so.
Get all the
As far as the code portion, text my gov, you can text it, you can send a message on a pothole or a code violation. We have designated emails that it goes to, if it's water, sewer, whatever, it automatically goes to Public Works, and it goes to that email address to the director, and then if it's a code issue, then we can forward it to the fire department. So, yes.
Okay, so my next question is, yes, it's going to the fire department if they text it. Are you putting it in iWorks then? So it's trackable?
So it is trackable. The text message comes from from TextMyGov. There's an email generated to the director. That's our track on what has been reported as a code violation. At that point, I have an email with a timestamp on yesterday at 4 o'clock. I got a code compliance issue on whatever. Live Oak. At that point, we can send it to chief if it's under their purview. If it's under our purview for like some kind of, I don't know, food permit or whatever, we handle it and we track it from there.
And yes, one of us, go ahead and put it in iWorks.
Okay.
Because the goal is that at the end of the day, let's say, so we get a text.gov, right? And then we don't have another issue with that address for 3 months. Well, we forgot that we've ever even dealt with that, whatever. We get a next text.gov and I go into iWorks and it's like, oh, we had the same problem 3 months ago. Okay, I'm starting to see the pattern, right?
That's kind of what I was asking.
Yes, ma'am. So we do, that's why we are putting all of them. They're all going into iWorks so that we have that tracking system for each address.
So eventually, iWorks can kind of be the central way to handle this.
Absolutely.
And the easiest way.
Absolutely. And the great thing is, from the citizen side, all they got to do, if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, Doris, but I believe it's already on the city website, right? Oh, look, it's already there. It's already pulled up. So all they got to do is go onto the city website, go under code compliance. When they go under code compliance.
There's a new tab right there, code compliance,
Yeah.
Make it easier.
The code compliance, you click on the code compliance. When you go into that, it'll bring up the iWorks, and you go from there, and you can put the information in. Yeah, permit application, or you got a complaint for code. And so that's just right there on the city's website. It is live, it's there, you can do it now.
I love it.
So is that under cases and violations? Is that what that's under?
It's under code compliance.
It's under code compliance. It's a new tab that's on the page.
Yeah, I see that, but it's like, okay.
Well, they got to assume that the permit would be under code compliance.
Yeah.
The category is code compliance.
And they pull down.
Correct. It's a drop tab.
Could say code and permits, maybe.
We can work on that. That's a logistical fix we can make.
But anyway, we obviously have a lot going on. It's definitely going to pay off in the long run. Yep. Sure, we've got our hiccups here and there, but you know, the thing that's important is that you guys have worked to resolve these. Our city staff has worked to resolve them and so forth. So I think all that's wonderful. Does anybody else have any more questions for?
Yes.
Go ahead.
I'd like to see the metrics for this stuff in our monthly reports, so we get our investment a bit. How many code complaints, what were the nature of the complaints, what was the timeline, same with inspection, when was initial contact, when was or maybe when was the permit actually request submitted, then when was the job completed, and
Because the reports, once the permits.
So is that a matter of like responding to the reporting system?
So that's one of the reasons we're excited about iWorks, is because we were trying to do that basically in an Excel sheet. Yeah, it was a nightmare. And so now with the iWorks, that's a simple click, I can hand you your report, and that'll be easy to go.
So next month we would get this month's.
If everything works correctly, that's the way it should work.
Yes.
I should be able to go in, an hour before the meeting, click off the report, and anything we've done since the last meeting till now, I should be able to hand you, assuming everything works correctly.
is there a way I can see the inspection request form? Because the one concern I wanted to address in front of everybody tonight is folks say we're only allowed to use the fire department. We didn't get any other options. And these folks just being cheap, saying, oh, I see it's cheaper. And where do I find that? Say, no, you had the option of Bureau Veritas or the fire department for your inspection.
That would be a city question.
That would be a city question.
Last meeting we were told folks had to go to you for permit requests. So I'm confused on that.
So we have not, iWorks is going to start issuing the permits, and up until now, the city has issued all the permits. All we've done is followed up on them.
So we do realize that when we talked about this initial kickoff, the city and the fire department agreed to a 90-day process phase, right? So the city still has been doing the permits and so forth and so on as we gradually make the transition to the fire department. So that's one point that needs to be made. The other point, the iWorks is being launched. We've had multiple trainings, joint training with the fire department as well as the city on how the process works and so forth. And the transition is now going over to the fire department being the primary point of contact. At any point a citizen wants to come in and speak with the city staff, we still are open for that, of course, because that's what we're here for, to serve citizens. So to answer your question, the city right now has been doing the majority of the permits over the last 90 days because of the 90-day transition of training, switch over, etc.
How are folks being kept informed of their options for inspections though?
By voice saying they're told when they come in about the voice when the interaction with the staff.
Maybe that's what it was. Okay.
So what's your plan to make sure folks have clear transparency? You can choose us or Bureau Veritas.
So I'm actually going to go a step further and tell you that our goal, and one of the things that we have talked about doing is having a preferred third-party vendors list, not just Bureau Veritas. I'd like to get ATS. I'd like to get Watkins Group. I'd like to have a group of people that are vetted, that work throughout the state, that are well-known and do this. I'd like to have a third-party list. A lot of your major cities have a third-party vendors list for this specific thing. I want to eventually get that on there, get that updated and all that. But again, we're talking down the road. We're still trying to get this thing perfected and get it rolled out correctly. But that would be my answer to that, is have that to where when they go in, there's a preferred vendors list and they can pick whoever it is that they want to be able to do that inspection.
Can you, when you get that, so anything created whenever you're officially doing all that stuff, can you send out a screenshot of this, just so we can say for sure that everyone is crystal clear, I do not have to choose one vendor over another. Sure. Just make clear to me I had an option. Okay.
Do they get the fee schedule? Because it's on that, like you said. If they get a copy of the fee schedule, then they know. Correct.
Yes, it's on the fee schedule that we made. It's on the fee schedule that y'all approved, yes.
Yes, that's what
So how does the process work? If I went in tomorrow, took the money in for a permit to get a driveway done, correct? So I have to wait 10 days to get started on that driveway?
No, sir. Or if you fill out the permit, well, first of all, you go to iWorks, get on iWorks, we're pushing everybody to iWorks. They go on iWorks and fill out all the information, they upload the documents, they pay, they fill out the permit, they pay the permit fee, then that generates a ticket, timestamp, and it generates a message to the fire department on what they're trying to do, and then process starts the process. They don't have to wait 10 days. They have to wait till the communication with the fire department and appointment is set up and so forth and so on.
Before I can start.
Right. The 10 days is a violation. It's two totally separate things.
Correct. So that's what I'm trying to figure out, because I got similar complaints though too, so that's why I want to make sure that I back you up 100%
No, I
on
got
code
you.
compliance stuff.
So the 10 days is only on the code compliance side. So we by law, when we notify them that they're not in compliance, we have to give them 10 days. That's the only place the 10
Okay,
days
so
comes in. That's a completely separate issue.
Separate. All right.
Okay? The inspection side, the biggest thing about the inspection side is we get it. It's just a matter of we've got to make contact and schedule when we can come out. I will say we try to ask people to give us like 48, 72 hours only because this isn't the only thing we do, right?
Yes.
So I may not have somebody immediately available. So we say, we ask that you give us 48, 72 hours. Within that 48 hours, somebody's going to be in contact with you, and we're going to schedule to come out. Now, if we don't have anything else going on, it'll be that day. I'll come out, I'll take a look at it if you're ready to go. I will say most of the complaints that I have heard about after the fact, I go back to what Mayor Cook said, and that is I've had people call and go, well, we've been doing this for a month, and I haven't heard anything. Well, okay, but come to find out you turned in your permit 3 days ago. Like, that clock didn't start when you picked up your permit, right? That clock started when you paid your money and you turned in all your paperwork and all of that. And within that 3 days, we're having this conversation. I know there were some posts on social media made about, I've been waiting a month. No, you haven't. I'll tell you that right now. That's just simply not factual. Again, it's about having all of the stuff turned in that starts the clock. We can't come and inspect until we know the city got paid, because otherwise the city won't get paid.
Yes.
Right? And so I'll just be honest, I made that mistake right off the bat. First couple of inspections, somebody called and said, hey, I want to do a pre-inspection so you can tell me what's going to happen. I said, man, I'm a really nice guy. Let me go do this. And the next thing you know, the city was like, hey, did you tell this guy he can start doing a bit? I did not. That is not what happened. However, I fixed that and didn't make that mistake again. So a lot of times these people that are like, well, I've been waiting this long and that long, it's simply not true. Now, in their mind, I'm not saying they're lying about it. What I'm saying is, in their mind, it started the second they picked up the paperwork.
Yes.
Well, I'm sorry, but that's not when we started. We started when you turned that back in, you paid your fees and all that. I will say we have probably, in the time that myself and Captain DeLucia have been doing this, we have found about 3 or 4 legitimate times that people fell through the cracks, to where it was longer than about a week or two. Most everybody has been addressed within that week or 2 time. Now, I will say when I first started out, those first 47, some of those people had been waiting literally 2 months, and no one had gotten back with them. They hadn't heard anything. They didn't know anything. And it was, okay, we got to really jump on this. So those first initial, we were trying to catch up from previous. The other 34 that have happened after July, most of those have been caught pretty quick, and nobody has really had to wait. Like I said, there's been a handful. I'm not going to lie about that, but this iWorks is going to help streamline that. And most of those times it's because, oh yeah, they turned it in and we sent it to an email. Oh, that was the wrong email. Again, we're figuring each other out. Oh, I thought you were sending it to this email. No, it went to this email. We fixed all that. That's done. That's fixed. But for the most part, once it gets turned in, within that 2 to 3 days, we're in contact. We're scheduling a time to meet and get that started.
Yeah, but I think that time span needs to be within 24 hours to get in contact with them and let them know, hey, we're working on this, we're going to get, you know what I'm saying, instead of them waiting 72 hours.
If we say 24 hours, what happens? And remember, I only have 2 people on the weekends, right? Let's say they put this in at 5 o'clock on Friday, we pop a structure fire at 7 o'clock, right? And we go until easily 8, 9 in the morning, which is very possible, right? My guys have to go back to sleep. Right? They go back, they get their sleep in, whatever else. They don't even get up until 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Then they've got station duties they've got to knock out before they can do anything else. That 24 hours puts us under a gun, considering we also do emergency response. We had a day the other day where we went 16 straight hours and my guys continuously worked. We had 3 car wrecks in the middle of town. We had 4 big major medical calls. We had a structure fire, all within about a 16-hour time span. And these guys didn't stop. Right? And when they did stop, they crashed. They went back and they racked out. Well, in that day, there's no way we would have responded to anybody who submitted anything on iWorks. We didn't even look at it. That's just reality. So we say 48 to 72 because I want to make sure nobody's sitting there going, well, they said 24, why aren't they calling us? I don't want to put us in that kind of a bind. It's just going to be, on the rare occasion, it's going to be not possible.
I really thought we had talked about the 24 to 48 hours, but business days. So if it comes in Friday at 5,
Sure.
you're not getting another call until probably Tuesday morning.
Sure.
Like, literally. So, which gives...
And that's essentially what we go by. That 72 covers us for weekends, holidays, things off. So, like I said, first thing the captain does when he comes in every morning, is open iWorks or open the permits and see what we've got. So most people do get contacted within that 24. I just say 48 to 72 to give us that caution. But if it's business days, we're probably covered anyway.
Well, I think your 72 hours is fine personally. And one of the things when all this started, okay, one of the big feathers in your cap was 24/7.
Yes, sir.
Right.
So I think 72 hours to me is doable and realistic. Obviously, you don't want to go to 72 hours.
Correct.
If you do sooner, great, just like you said. But then also at the same time, when they pick up their permit, you know, it should probably say you should expect within 48 to 72 hours.
And that is one other thing I was going to mention. That's a great suggestion, Mayor, and that's something we can work with Cody, our rep at iWorks. We can have him put that on there from when they print it out and things like that.
Back to the education.
Absolutely.
They
Goes back
don't
to
know any
education.
better.
100%. So if you guys have thoughts like that, hey, when they go on, can we see the preferred vendors list? Can we see a timeline on the permit? Please get that stuff to us. We'll take it back to Cody, the guy that builds all this for us. We'll take it back to him and see if it's possible and what needs to be done. I'm sure something like that's easy, right? But yeah, any ideas you have like that, we'll take those suggestions
I
back.
would think they should be able to do that on any permit. Like,
I would think so too.
Yeah.
It's a one sentence
Yeah.
for this and that and that. I mean, so it's a piece of...
Someone will be in contact within 72
Right.
hours. I mean, 70.
Right. Okay.
Can I quickly clarify the fees you folks collect? Code enforcement, you're paid a flat rate of the $110,000 a year. You're not collecting any of the fees that are associated with that, correct?
Correct. Code enforcement, we touch nothing.
So you're not profiting from enforcing code.
Not one iota.
With respect to inspections, you pay the inspection fee, just like your other class takes theirs.
No.
I'm going to, at this moment, defer this conversation to David Jordan. And I only say that because I don't want to speak out of turn. We've had some conversations offline about this, but I don't want to speak out of turn and misspeak.
Okay. Current contract says the fire department will receive no fees, additional fees for codes and inspections. So that's what we're currently under. There may be certain times that there might be an inspection that the fire department was not able to do at the moment. So that might have to go out to ATS or a third-party inspector, which at that point, those fees would go to them. Okay? But the city gets all fees, to answer your question. The city gets all fees from codes, and the city gets all the fees from the inspections. Fire department does not receive any fees at this time.
How are they compensated for inspecting?
$110,000.
The annual contract.
Well, again, that's why I didn't necessarily want to have this conversation here, but since we're having it, let's have it. My only comment to that would be, if Bureau Veritas does it, who's collecting the fee schedule, is what I'm saying. Because we created the fee schedule on the idea that you were going to get 30% on top of that. So are you collecting 130% now on top? If they don't go with Bureau Veritas, if they go with the city, are you collecting 130%? Again, this gets into a very gray area. I was under the understanding, kind of the same as Mr. Ritchie, that we were going to be able to collect from the inspection side. The 110 was for the code enforcement side. Again, that's not set in stone. I'm willing to work with the city on this and negotiate this. That's why I didn't want to have this conversation here, because I think this is probably a better closed-door conversation to go through the negotiation and have the conversation. My only question would be, if I was a citizen, I would wonder, okay, well then who sets the fee schedule? Is it the city? Because usually the city was only getting 30% on top of the inspections. They were already getting paid from the inspections. That would be my question.
When we set the fee schedule, it was a schedule, a fee for permits, which the city retained, and then there was a fee for the inspection from the fire department, and then whatever Veritas was. I forget, I think we did have a column for them too.
Yes.
So the person doing the work, or the contractor, or the resident, they knew, I'm gonna pay $30 for the city, and I'm paying $100 for the fire department, or $100 for bringing the BV, okay? Let's just say you guys are the same because it's too hard. So they get their choice then, but the city gets the fees, all of the fees, and then I did too think we were gonna pay that $100 to the fire department, and then, or the $100 to BV, because that has to do with code, not code compliance, it has to do with permits and inspections. I thought it was totally different than code compliance. That's why I keep asking the same question, so this time you asked it, thank you, but I'm not sure now who does what now.
Well, that's my opinion that, you know, this is a little bit more of a, this side of it is a little bit more complicated. And, you know, the way I understand the agenda item is that we're discussing code compliance. Is this correct?
That's correct.
So maybe we should stick to that and then come back to this side of it at a different time.
I'd be in agreement.
Okay, that's fine.
Well, the other thing too to point out though, okay, since you're on it, code compliance revenue is going to pale in comparison to permits and inspections. So just remember that.
Thanks for better service. Last question, who enforces water restriction
Yes.
regulation
Have you had
code?
any? That's a good question.
So we've had some calls on that, and we've actually addressed a couple of those. As a matter of fact, we went by one today and said, hey, we need to go have a conversation with them. So as they come in, we'll go address those, because that is still under code.
Can I just clarify something else? It seems to be some kind of misnomer. We go to a person's house and say, okay, you're in violation, and they fail to comply. Now you're fined $50. The city itself don't have the authority to fine anybody. The person goes to court, and the judge levies the fine or not on that person. So I just want to make that clear. It's not a revenue generating mechanism, or, you know, the code enforcement person don't just say, you know, here's a ticket and you owe the city $150 and you need to pay it by Friday type thing. So, right. So they go to court, they give them a citation, they show up at court, they plead their case. If it's cleaned up, majority of the time it's dismissed, and if it's not, then the judge has the authority. She will determine what to fine, if any. Some, none, or all.
Sometimes she gives them more time, sometimes
Right.
she makes them pay a fee.
And then clearly too, so it's going out there, it has been addressed, but if you have, right now our water restrictions, if you come across a water violation, to me it's like a traffic ticket. They need to get cited right then and there, because you can't give them 10 days to turn off the water.
Oh, no, well, yeah, it's a whole different thing, actually. the water.
Right, so that would be, so that's something to address, maybe get that in black and white. Okay,
So
that's a tough area.
one of the great things that the city's done a great job of working with us on, and I'm not saying this because the man's sitting here, but my hat is off to David Jordan. He has actually juggled this very well, and he has done a great job of bringing several entities together to even make this possible. In those instances, he's actually helped us by having law enforcement go with us. Now, see, law enforcement can actually cut a ticket right then and there on the spot, and they have threatened that for that very reason, because as code compliance, only thing we can do is take them to court. We have to give them the 10 days. There is no black and white on that. That's the only thing we can do. However, law enforcement can cut a ticket on the spot. And there have been numerous times over the last 3 months that I've gotten hold of Lieutenant Andrews at the request of David Jordan, and he has sent an officer out with us to help, hey, you're either going to turn it off or we're going to cut a ticket.
So, I agree, if it's a stage 4 violation, water restriction violation, I get it why he's getting it, because he's code compliance. But maybe we need to make it official to make it a dual thing with the PD, or make it just go to PD. Like, I don't care, because stage 4, you give them a 10-day letter, you're right.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, Ms. Renda, you don't have to do anything. That's the way it's written. That's why we're able to call PD and just have them go with us.
Okay.
We choose sometimes not to do that because look at that charming face back there. That guy sometimes can charm them into turning their water off all on his own. It doesn't. Sometimes the law enforcement being there actually makes it a little more difficult. And so we we actually have a good agreement with them that if we request them, they're more than happy to come. But sometimes it's easier, get flies with honey instead of vinegar. That's kind of our goal.
Okay, we're getting into our 4th hour.
We need to stop now.
Well, I think it's been great to get this out in the open and discuss it, which was my intent. So I think we've cleared a lot of area. But once again, nothing's perfect. There's no need. And it never will be. You're always going to have an unhappy people, period. Especially with something as controversial as this can be. Okay, but I think it's a great idea. We've had a few hiccups, but I just think we need to keep plugging along, just make it better, make it better. So, that being said, does anybody else have anything?
No.
The other day? Okay. All right, well, Greg, thanks again.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, council.
Thanks, Chief.
Okay, moving on. Hopefully this one doesn't. Consider act upon street paving, priority list phase 2. We've got to discuss part of this already. Another list. I believe, yeah. So under consideration right now, is this also, Pete, is this your suggestions?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so everybody can know, priority new street list, and not necessarily in any order, right, President?
No.
Okay, so we're at zigzag from 132, right there by the restaurant, across from City Hall to the county line. You can see where that is, where the pavement changes. Okay, Windy Knoll, which is probably the most, along the Cove Parkway, the most traveled city street that there is.
I'm hoping on that one right there, Mayor, I'm hoping we can do like a chip and seal and make it a little easier.
Right, well, I think it was gonna be a combination.
Right, in areas.
Patch areas and then chip and seal
Right.
finish.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and then West Malone, which is, it's gonna include the entire curve.
Until the, yeah, to the right
Start
turn.
in Ingram, you go
Go
down.
to that right turn, where I think, was it
Where that
3 years
whole street
ago,
touches?
we started it on Jack Nicholas, because there was a little short section of Jack Nicholas we were able to do. This has been 3, maybe 4 years ago.
Oh, that was county that did that, yes, I
Yeah,
remember.
that's
Yeah.
county. Yeah, that part's county.
Yeah.
So, but it's right after the turn. is
Right,
where
right by that big old tree.
No, I'm talking about the beginning of it, from Ingram, like we have a 4-way stop.
Oh, yes.
Is it going up Live Oak to the golf course?
Yes, that's
Okay,
where it
so
should be
let's start
starting.
there, across from Jason's
Go
Moore's
all the
house,
way
and look down to the very bottom.
around,
No,
yeah, that's
Yeah.
what I
that's the
submitted.
county road.
We were told that that's a city road. The last
Yeah.
time we did it,
Yeah, because county helped us with that road, and I believe,
yeah, but they told us it was city.
Cedar Road, yes.
So you're gonna, where are you gonna stop? West Malone ends at the end of the street, at the bottom of
It
the hill.
ends when you go around the curve like a U,
Or
and
Yogi
go on to
Slip.
Jack Nicholas.
Or Yogi
Yeah.
used to live.
Okay, that's what I'm picturing, because, to me.
Because that part is just as bad as this part.
Yeah, but city residents don't live on that street.
The city
water.
residents use it to
Water
go to their
service.
house.
It's too bad, then they're lucky they get water, sir.
They use it to go to Jack Nicholas a lot. But Jack Nicholas only has 2 ways out. Cemetery Road, well, and East Malone, okay, 3 ways out.
Yeah.
But a lot of them use that side.
Where Graham used to live, Graham's house?
Yeah.
I think,
That's where
the
Steve-
former, he used to be SAPD, he always used to come to me too, yeah, he said that was county, was a county road,
Well,
because everything in the back,
the west side of the road
Yeah.
is the county, so I'm trying to determine how that's a city street.
Right. I mean, where we're going to instead of Oak Tree, where Yogi used to live,
yeah.
on Malone.
Yeah.
That's where it stops right there.
Well, okay, that's what I said.
That's for this
At
project.
least that's what's on this right now.
Oh, so we're not gonna get that other side done?
No, county did that other side. You're talking about where Steve lives, street, Steve.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay, right there by the
county
old
did
Jeep,
from Jack
that's where we're
Nicholas.
stopping.
The county helped us
Yes.
on Jack Nicholas. We did not touch any of Malone.
No, it stopped over there by Yogi's house, right in the corner.
That corner.
Right, where the.
Yes.
Yes.
All I'm saying is that's not included here.
No, it's not included here.
It's just Ingram to the bottom of the hill. Where Ruben Palmer lives now.
If they go around the corner, they're gonna blah, 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 blah.
Well, that street isn't that bad right there.
Okay, go drive it.
I have driven it,
Okay.
it's a lot better than it used to be.
There's a lot of bad streets in
There's a lot of them.
Yes, there is.
I can list them off.
Anyway, that's what we're here to discuss. I think you had it priced for exactly what you have on here.
Yes, sir.
Right, okay, so, and then Hester is number 4, which is 3176. Probably could contribute to a loop someday.
Curcio or Curcio Park.
Right,
Yeah.
it goes by Curcio Park and then the Gutierrez, which butts into the property we're trying to develop.
Right.
So, and that was considered at one time about an access point for the city property,
For that other,
possibly.
whenever we get there.
But my question there is, when Hester was done, okay, along with those other streets in there, wasn't it just over recycled asphalt put directly on the sand?
Yes, yes.
So what are we gonna do with Hester?
That needs to be phased and reclaimed and everything. Yeah.
Okay.
It needs to be redone.
Right, okay, that was my question.
It's sand and rock in there, that's.
So what is the cost on each one of these, and what do we have in the budget that we can actually cover?
Just zigzag itself, last year I got the price for the beginning of the year, and it was 243,000.
Yeah.
Zigzag itself?
That's zigzag itself.
Yeah, well, that's what I was for. But that's a street that has a lot of people living on it, again, and you want to talk about a rough street,
School traffic.
that's really rough.
Yeah.
Well, then you got the feeder streets like Curtis and Jameson and all that come off with the zigzag. And then plus going the other way, you have streets.
That's why I think for a bang for the buck, then to me, that one makes good sense.
Total money, David?
So I'm in opposition to doing Windy Knoll, because you get a good rain event down there, and it's right up to the curb. And so you're gonna start overflowing, just like we've done on a number of streets there, just keep paving more and more over the top until it's overflowing into houses. It's gonna cause some property damage if we continue doing that. And either we increase the curb height, or grind that puppy down before we put anything else on top of it.
Right, and the thing with Windy Knoll is when I look at the difference of driving down Windy Knoll and when I drive down Zigzag, they're not even comparable.
No, I mean, no, zigzag's probably the
Now, a
worst.
couple things to consider now, if I remember correctly, because we can also give another opinion on that, okay? I ride my bike on Windy Knoll all the time, okay? And yes, it spots it slightly above the curb, okay? But then again, if you go, okay, you're not, on that, it's just a seal. How thick is this, chimney seal?
Half inch.
See, so you're gonna add a half an inch. Now, I'm not saying that Danny Alder is a consultant on this or what have you, but he did not think it would be an issue at this juncture. Okay? Now, perhaps the next time it would be. But I'm just saying it's something we could look into. We should get an informed opinion on that. Okay? Just because you go over the curb by a little bit, once again, that's not the curb, that's just the footing of the curb that you're talking about. Correct?
During a serious rain event, I'm talking about the height of the curb. And most of the houses on that street are built line grade. And if you go over toward Burn Booth, then they're a little bit below grade. They're backing up to that floodplain. So you increase a little bit, even a half inch. I don't know about how many metric tons or feet of water we're talking here. I'm not a hydraulic engineer or anything, but you're real close to max capacity right now.
Windy Knoll is not a big street for drainage.
Yep.
He's talking about water going over the curb.
I
If you
guess,
raise
ma'am,
the
I know.
street a half an inch, then that water's
I
gonna
know.
go over.
I don't know Windy Knoll to be a big street in our drainage.
Oh,
I do. I live on it.
yeah.
And you've had it flood your yard?
No, I'm saying it's very close at current state. During a major rain event, it's very close. You're within a half inch of the top of the curb. If that's my concern there, you're adding that half inch tar and chip to that, you're reducing the water capacity of that street.
And then we won't have flood.
Possibly.
No,
But it's
I'd
close
love
to
to
the
have-
increased risk.
I'd love to have another
I vote for zigzag.
console on that. Well, the other thing too, that we also got to consider, when you have a street like Windy Knoll, okay, that's so highly traveled, right? It is not in good shape, okay? But it can be salvaged at a much less price, where if you let it go another 2 years, then you're going to redo the entire project. That's just my thought.
For the total price on the reclaim, I'll let you know. At the beginning of the year, I got a price on that, and it was $420,000.
That's the total, that's
Yes.
cutting it out and everything.
That's digging it up and repacking it?
Yes.
That's not just resealing it?
No,
Okay.
So the chip and seal, do we have a price?
I don't have a price on that yet.
Okay. Okay.
It's gonna be areas.
What was our total possible budget?
Okay, so we have an initial budget of $764,000. And y'all just awarded Dwayne, the last streets project was $469,000, which leaves a total of $295,000. However, like I mentioned last meeting, since we still have money from the CD that was cashed in for the Bainwell project, if you add, you have about $270,000 remaining from that, so we add, say, $250,000 out of that, plus the $295,000, which will make $545,000 available for additional street repairs for phase 2, if you so choose to do so.
Could we consult with S6 there about the drainage on Colonial, that area where it's washed out to nothing? I know JR said $1.2 million. If we can't find a more creative solution for that, that is a terrible street and very much travel. They are looking at that right now.
I actually, I'm glad you mentioned that, because when we were working with these other folks, okay, it's very similar to the process that you had mentioned, I believe, on your Facebook page or somewhere else about digging out on both sides, having the rocks and such, and have water draining into it. And I presume you're talking about the part of Colonial Parkway that's been like that for 50 plus years. Okay. And why anybody built houses there, I have no idea. Okay, so I mean, but you also have you got Oak Ridge that's coming down, it's draining from Mockingbird, all right, and you have it's coming from 3 different directions. Okay, and well, Libel doesn't go to that particular part unless it goes to Mockingbird and then down.
You're right.
And so it's there's a process that these guys are talking about, and I've been meaning to Pete's going to look into it to see if it's a possibility. Because when we were sitting there in that meeting, I looked at him and we both kind of said, hey, let's look into that. So it's a company that makes a product called Permagrid, okay? And then what they do is you're basically digging out for the drainage, you know, on both sides of the road, and you're replacing it with this material that allows the water to soak down so far, okay? Now the catch-22 on it is that once a year, you have to vacuum the sediment out, because otherwise it would turn into the same thing. Okay, that is the only something like that would have to be done, because the houses are below the street, you know, and everything. If you put a bridge in there, they have a way to get to their house. Okay, if you repave it, which is, I mean, you can put concrete there. Okay, and I don't know. I still would presume that the standing water at Colonial Parkway would eventually ruin the concrete.
You'll flood the houses out if you put concrete there.
Well, yeah, because you would have to increase. Right. Something's going to happen. Okay, so the one on the corner would get it then instead of the one next to it.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, and then one of our storms, I went over there and looked at it. They had water almost up to their side, their porch. It was halfway up their sidewalk.
Oh yeah, when they get a good rain, yeah.
Yes, and so that's been an existing problem for 50-something years. And so there are no easy solutions, and that Permagrid may not do it either. It may not be able to hold enough of that water. So according to Danny and I also walked that area, okay, and Danny and I, and on the south side of Colonial Parkway, it seems to be the only solution to get an easement to go through that property and then dump it on East Davis, and then they'll carry it on out. Okay, that seems to be the only solution, but you have to get an easement first.
Right.
You know, and then you're going to have pipe buried for so long. You know, that's a tough one. Yeah. I don't know if it's 1.2 million, but God, I would hope not. You know,
yeah.
So.
And I know we got a water line on each side of the road, so.
There is?
Yeah. There's 2 lines.
So there you go.
So can I ask what the cost is on West Malone and on
West Malone, the price I got best was the beginning of the year, I'm sorry. Was 205.
Okay. And Hester, what was that?
Hester, I don't have a price on that one.
Because it seems to me like if we could afford to do 2 of these, that would be a good extension.
Right.
You know, like if you did Zigzag and West Malone, you would at least be knocking 2 of them off the list.
Right.
So it looks like we can afford to do that.
Yeah, probably for next year, I got a street that's never been paved, and I just found out about it last month, and that's O'Neill Street. That's the street that goes
Towards the sewer plant.
towards the sewer plant, and it's never been paved before, and I didn't know about it. So that's another one there that's probably going to have to be paved on the next budget.
Where's O'Neill?
O'Neill's the one that goes where Murdoch is to the sewer plant.
Well, farm.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's never been paved. I didn't.
So are we looking, David, to approve a couple of these? Because what we were talking about a second ago, it looked like we can afford to do like, if we did Zigzag and West Malone, we can afford to do both of those.
Right, so I brought it back to the council for y'all to discuss it. If you so choose to go ahead and approve it, then we can go ahead and do the bids this year, and then early, soon as springtime hits, they can start doing the work. Probably March timeframe. Second phase.
So in our new budget, we only have, okay, we had how much left over from the previous budget? That's being spent right now on these 4 streets that we're doing right now? Phase 1?
Put aside $263,000 for this year's street maintenance budget. Prior to that was
400 or something.
Yeah. Right. And that's what took it to $764,000. And then we did the one bid, 469. So now we're at 295 remaining.
In this year's budget? Okay, I got it. Okay, so then there's a CD that we can cash in if we wish. Which
Well,
gets
the
us.
CD makes it so we have 545.
Yeah,
Well,
okay.
can I make a motion then that we at least go ahead and proceed with Zigzag and West Malone and get those bids? And go ahead and proceed with phase 2?
You can.
We'll make that
Make
motion.
the motion.
Can we have discussion first?
We have a motion.
Okay, I'll second the motion. Can I discuss something now?
Yeah.
Let me announce, please let me announce.
Okay.
Okay. All right, we have a motion from Jeff to approve Zigzag and West Malone that is listed on the priority new street list, pending the cost. So in other words, those 2 have priority at the moment. That would be the motion. We have projected cost of $243,000 on Zigzag, $205,000 on West Malone. We have a second from Debbie. All right, discussion, please.
So my question is, but we don't want this to start until warm weather next year.
Correct.
So we need those quotes or whatever you get, proposals to be valid till at least, we can't start it till like April. I mean.
So these are the old quotes?
Yes, sir, go for the beginning of the year.
Right. But either way, it should be.
I'm sure it'll be similar, but
Yeah.
we just don't want to start it until spring.
Right. But I think
Because
that's,
otherwise, we're going to run the
so that's
streets.
that was the plan anyway, because you gotta have time to finish the other projects.
Sir.
Okay.
Okay. Any further discussion with regards to priority street list?
Sure.
Okay. All in favor of said motion? Motion passes 5-0. All right. Hopefully 2 more streets.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, yes.
I forgot to say.
Well, we don't know the amount.
And amend the budget.
Well, we don't know the amount yet. We're just approving the priority.
The money's in the budget.
Yeah, that's right, we're just approving.
We're just approving the priorities of the streets. Correct, Tom?
To get quotes.
Yeah, to get
Okay.
bids.
Right. So we can't amend the budget. Okay, moving on. All right, we're going to go down the wire. Okay. Agenda item number 15, consider and act upon adopting a policy pertaining to the social media service TikTok or any successor application or service developed or provided by ByteDance Limited or any entity owned by ByteDance Limited or any other social media application or service specified by proclamation of the Governor of Texas under Government Code Section 620.005. Tom, please advise.
Okay, Mayor. This new Senate Bill 1893 requires cities to pass a policy pertaining to TikTok. And we cannot have TikTok on any of our IT equipment. And that's it, basically.
Make a motion to accept the proposition of banning China's Communist Party from gathering further intelligence against our municipality.
I second the motion.
That's the best motion I've heard in a while. Okay, all right, we have a motion from Josh to approve the policy pertaining to social media of TikTok and banning it from all city devices. We have a second from Jeff. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor? Motion passes 5-0, Governor Abbott.
There you go.
All right, agenda item number 16. Consider act upon adopting a resolution designating public information coordinators to satisfy the training requirements of Texas Government Section 552.012.
I'll take it, she's out to the bathroom, I guess. Denise.
Okay, all right.
Yes, it's basically updating the public information coordinators to add me as a new city administrator and take the old person off the list. So I'm on the list, Dora's on the list, and Denise is on the list. We attended a course earlier in the year, class Public Information Act, Public Finance, which is a required training we have to take every 2 years. We've already taken it and we're up to date on that. So this is just an update, administrative paperwork that's required, annual review of this policy.
I'll make a motion that we adopt a resolution designating public information coordinators to satisfy the training requirements of Texas Government Section 552.012.
I have a motion from Debbie to approve the resolution designating public information coordinators.
I'll second it.
We have a second from Ray. Discussion. Okay, Josh. You second or?
For a second.
Oh, okay. Ray's got it. Right. Any discussion on this? Is something that has to be done annually?
No, sir.
All in favor? Motion carries 5-0. Denise, great job explaining the last one.
What's that resolution number going to be?
That was on, the resolution number will be 10-24. Agenda item 17. Consider act upon adopting the City of Devine investment policy and strategy. Denise, if you would like to comment on this.
That's the policy that we've had in place since 2018. We had to revise it, remove Mary from it, and list David, Dora, and myself as the investment officers.
Can you remove the mayor? Who's
Mary
mayor?
Medill, she was our financial advisor.
Like 5 years ago?
Okay. Okay. Okay, so this removes her and you, David, and Nora are named.
As
Okay.
investment officer.
Okay, this is also something that's done annually, or well, apparently not, because,
5 years.
but it should be done annually? Okay.
It's reviewed annually.
Review them. Okay.
I'll make a motion that we adopt the investment policy and strategy.
Okay, we have a motion from Debbie to adopt the City of Devine investment policy and strategy.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a second from Jeff. Discussion, please.
Okay, I know you folks think I'm joking a lot, but we really need to take a serious look at adding Bitcoin to our investment strategy. We've got 34 Fortune 500 companies across the U.S. We've got 13 in Canada and even Germany on here. That is the best performing asset in world history. We've got 13 ETFs. Yeah, I think it's irresponsible to not add something to our portfolio, either it's 5 to 10%, that hedges against inflation. If Tony Fink, the head of BlackRock, says this is the best hedge against inflation, I think we really need to take that into serious consideration.
Okay. Although it's, I don't know, is that covered in this? Oh, it's a great comment. I'm not so sure that bearing on this particular.
It would technically still count as a risk-on asset, so that would be contrary to the conservative nature of the policy.
Yes.
That being said, you know,
It was very
the
conservative policy.
the largest investment firm in the world says this is where they're putting 5 to 10% of their assets to hedge against inflation.
I'm not sure it's legal.
Well, the policy, if you read it, okay, number one is the safety of your investment. Provide return, and then what have you came third or fourth. Okay, but I think it's definitely worth looking into with the people that know a whole lot more about it than I do.
I don't know nothing about it. I don't want to put money into something that I can't see, right?
Right.
You know, on page 4, authorized investments, there's only certain things that municipalities can invest in, Josh. But, you know, having listened to what you said, David and the two ladies can check that out, that's a possibility. But on 4, it lists what we can invest in, because it needs to be very conservative. You know, the first thing, as a governmental entity, what we need to do is not lose any of our principal. So there's always a risk, but that's, having said that, at least they can look into it for you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. My thoughts exactly. Okay. We have a motion, if I'm not mistaken. And a second. All in favor? Motion carries 5-0. Okay, agenda item 18, if you reviewed the quarterly investment report, any comments or any insight?
Yes, sir. I'd just like to highlight, if you look on the investment that we made back 3 months ago, when we moved the $2 million from the $2.5 million loan that we had into the tech pool, the return is $20,000 in about 3 months. So
That's nice.
that was a good move, smart move. And if instructed, we have additional monies that we can put into that account, but that's the average, 20,000 in 3 months so far.
Outstanding. Excellent. Anything else? Okay. If there's nothing else, I'll close that agenda item. Agenda item 19, informational items.
Can we get an update on the website rebuild?
The website rebuilding is, I'm looking at it again now that the budget season's over, and I'm able to focus on it. I'll be focusing more on getting that. I have talked to one website, 2 website people since then, but I've not initiated anything yet.
Can we get a list, or where do we find all the phone numbers and links folks can contact? So we've got the TextGov, the iWorks, and there's a third one. I don't know where we go for all these different numbers. I have 1435 phone number for texting. I think that's iWorks, but I'm not clear where all folks are supposed to text, call, or whatnot.
Okay, I can send that information out again, make sure it's posted somewhere on the website where it'll be centrally located, easy to find.
My info. Thank you. All right, appreciate it.
Okay, great.
All right, I got something real quick. On Adam Street, Wedge Street, and South Tilly, AEP was supposed to go out there and look at putting up the lights, because the lights used to be there. I mean, some of these are almost, when I first got elected, I put these on the agenda. Also, too, the text Adam Street, Webb Avenue, and then South Tilly and Webb. Also, too, text dot. They ever get back to you on a speed limit or anything about a bus stop sign, or I mean, not how bus drops off children or something like that?
Right, so I did send a message out to the TxDOT coordinator again. She said to answer your question. They haven't given me an answer. They said it was in the queue as far as the traffic study also at the intersection that you asked about. Mm-hmm. And so I'll follow up on that. But I did send a message out this week asking for an update.
Okay. And the last one is O'Neill Street. what's the deal with that? I mean, can you find out, give me some information on O'Neill Street? I mean, I thought it was just a shortcut to get to the sewer plant. I didn't know it was a real street.
From Webb across.
It's right there by the Murdoch's, Mr. Murdoch's old house, and it's just a dirt road.
It's not a shortcut?
That's what I thought, but
Oh,
it
it's not a
has, it
shortcut.
has a street name, so that's why,
That's at the
Miss-
bottom of my road.
Yes.
Because, yeah, that's been
yeah.
there forever and a day.
See, because Miss Lawler I got a phone call from Miss Lawler, on a certain complaint, and it wasn't that. It was something else, and then I know she's gonna build houses there, cause she's already got it all plotted. But I know we can't do anything with the street yet, because if we're gonna tie in water and sewer, it may be a while, I mean, but once that first house gets built, you know, we're gonna have to start doing some serious work, but I know probably have to put that on the agenda later or something like that for her.
Well, that could be backyards as opposed to if they would prefer a street in the middle of it.
Yeah.
So Pete, you're there for a reason.
I believe, one of the reasons that's an asbestos line in that O'Neill Street. So I think that's one of the reasons. But why they haven't done anything else with it? They got these base or anything, I don't know. That was before me and.
Oh, yeah.
So there's only 2 houses on the whole street, or one.
Right.
One.
Yeah.
Nobody lives on it. So,
Because even, which is, Watson, that got
Yeah.
asphalt, it was milled, they just threw it on there
right,
before, so.
right.
Yeah, cause I mean, that's the only concern, and then the other one I got was, the street over from Zigzag. There's a portion of it that's still, I mean, it's like probably from wall to wall, that's still, paved by pea gravel. It's just it's just one section. I just don't know why it never got paved.
Well, that's also like, there's a little extension of Jefferson Drive that goes north of Coker to, and it's dirt. You know,
Yeah, I was showing David today on, what is it, on House Street, where they did just the asphalt in the center, and there's a curve there, they didn't go all the way to the curve, for there, so.
Yeah, but Shaver Street is just beautiful.
Yeah.
Park Street, I think it's the same way.
Shaver Street's the best paved street as entire town.
Well, and Lee Street, if we're gonna be talking streets, that's got a trench all the way down the middle of it. It's like down about this low because they replaced the sewer line at one point and it's sunk on it.
Just make sure you're out there, Pete, you and Davalos, make sure we get 2 inches of that asphalt laid down, nothing shorter.
Okay, are we, before we adjourn?
No, I have some.
Okay, great.
Too late.
Hey, that's,
I have
9:45.
some.
Oh,
Debbie.
come on.
Look at her. Okay, you got, no, go ahead.
90 seconds.
Okay, yeah, that's gonna happen. Okay, number 1, just so you're all aware, and anybody who's actually watching, it is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. I'm a very big advocate of that because my daughter-in-law is a 25-year survivor. So that's why we do this, and I just really want to get out there because even men can get it. It's not just a woman's disease. Okay, my other thing, Reach Across America. I got some flyers and they're at the city right now. I have also them electronically if anybody wants it, but this is also a good, it's for our veterans that are in the graveyards right now, both of them. Current Events handles both of them. So, big push right now, $17 for a wreath. There's a website, I'm gonna do a little post on my Facebook if you wanna look at it, where you can go. We need them covered, I mean, the Current Events Club only has so much money. So, we're really trying to make sure every veteran gets a wreath. It's a big deal, so, and the event is on December 14th, sorry. It'll be on 14th, which have not been to one. It's
Very nice.
It's very nice.
That's really cool.
So, next thing I have is, and y'all gonna hate me, Cactus Festival Parade. Do y'all want to do it? I know I asked David to ask him, and I didn't hear back. do we want to be in the parade or do we not want to be in the parade? And if we do we want to just get on the silly trailer and go, or do we want to decorate it? And I am not going to be in charge of that.
I thought we'd not do the parade.
I second, the only reason is because if we advance the band, well, no, but I'm just telling you, we can make it one, but, yeah, but if the band advances, I won't be around. Yeah.
As what now?
The high school band, they advance.
Oh, yeah.
They should, we have it for you.
Yeah.
I can go either way on that. It's, we're super extremely busy, in our company, plus everything too.
So y'all don't want to be on it, that's fine. I just
work
wanted an
Saturdays.
answer, okay? That's,
I
that'll be the
work
first year in
Saturdays, I
many that the council hasn't
No
been in
guilt
the parade.
trips.
I'm sorry?
What was it?
No guilt trips.
I work Saturday, so I can. I work
No,
Saturday mornings.
I'm just letting you know, it'll be the first time in many years the council hasn't been in it. But that's fine, y'all made that decision. Okay, second, also reminding you, shut up, Josh. I'm reminding, this Saturday is a citywide, yard sale. Like, for no fee and all of that, I don't know.
Forgot about that.
I have people calling every day, is there a list? We want to get on the list. I'm like, there is no list. Just put stuff out and sell it.
Go ahead and put your illegal posters on utility poles.
Right.
Big as you want.
So we can call the fire department and have you all busted.
They're not illegal this week.
Anyway, oh, you're really lucky that the water rate linked you, because I had a whole rant about that.
You have exceeded your 90 seconds.
Well, too bad, so sad. Okay, and hangar 8 and 8A, is it rented? Are they rented?
They are not rented. Our our city attorney is writing up a contract, and I'll bring it before you as soon as he's done. We do have 2 prospects.
My question is, are we gonna have a meeting next week?
More than likely,
Okay.
depending on
As long as we can find out
water
soon.
rate study.
Okay.
You have something to review tonight, in fact.
Tonight?
Well, that was given to you tonight.
I'm not reviewing it tonight.
Well, you have it
Yeah, I know.
tonight before review. Let me rephrase that. I agree, I understand.
Make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I recognize that motion.
Were you done, Beck?
Second motion?
Was she
Yes,
done?
I am.
I was like, was she done?
Well, you were quiet, man.
Are you still going?
No, it's fine. I can save it to the next meeting. Then I'll pay it again.
Well, we'll be out by 7 o'clock, so you better hurry up.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Everybody, we probably, oh, my golly, my bad, I forgot before we adjourn. We're back in session. We have a couple birthday boys with us here. Jeff, happy birthday, buddy. Ray, happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday,
All right.
son.
And what about Butch?
Mine isn't until, oh, you're right. Hey, too bad. Mine's still, 2 weeks away.
No, it's not.
New Hampshire.
Oh, yeah, right?